All right, there we go. We are live. Welcome back, long-time viewers, first-time viewers, and stalwart companions. I hope you're watching this live, or if you're watching it after the fact. It is me, Lance Meister. I am broadcasting from my basement gaming dojo in Moorhead, Minnesota. And tonight on the Alaboom, we had a little bit of a hiatus, just some real-life stuff interfering with our ability to do this, but looks like we got a few members here, and we're going to have more people joining in later. But we have the professional hanger-on, Keith Collins.
Hello.
Excellent. Keith, how you been, buddy?
I've been fine. It's been an interesting run of real world lately, so I've been focused on that for the past couple of weeks. But yeah, it's fine.
Good deal. And, of course, the ever-loquacious Barry Reynolds.
Me.
That is you. What's new, Barry?
Not much. I finally got some of this legal stuff settled, so I'd like to get back to normal.
So you're no longer poor? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
About a couple of weeks I won't be. I also resigned my post at SEPTA, so.
Oh, really? Why is that?
It's part of the legal action.
Oh. So... But then they're gonna come up and give you a fat wad of cash, right?
I don't want to go that far, but yeah, I'll get something. Yeah. Then all I got to do is figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life, and I'll be okay. Yeah.
All right, very good. Well, become a professional board game media person.
I was going to do a hanger-on. It's easier.
There you go.
It is a lot easier. That's why I have it patented, so you're going to have to pay me to do that.
Nice. Okay, and then our final gent here that if you were watching is Jim, and I'm gonna let Jim do his own introduction. Jim, who are you and why are you here?
My name is Jim Felly, and I am the owner and publisher of for Devious Weasel Games. We have two products out on the market at the moment. One is a base game called Shadows of Malice, which is a cooperative fantasy-based game. And the second is an expansion to that, which adds on some new features and some questing. We have another product, two products in the works. One is called Zimby Mojo, which I'm calling a co-opportunistic game of cannibalistic mayhem. And that's due to come out in, there it is, 2016. What a clever boy!
Cannibalistic mayhem. I love that. Yes, Keith is the master of the sharing the screen. He loves pulling this stuff up so then I can click on it and people can do that. I remember I saw you at Gen Con, Jim, and we were able to talk for a good chunk of time, and I appreciated that very much. And then you kind of gave me the lowdown a little bit for the Zimby, the new one, Zimby Mojo, but like go a little further into the cannibal side of it because it's weird. It's like no, I mean it's kind of weird because I can remember I played a game, not Lifeboats, but Lifeboat, and that was from Guerrilla Games back in the day. And that was like the whole idea of it was a bunch of people sitting in a lifeboat, and I won't go too far into it, but basically like each character either hated somebody and loved somebody. And so you had to make sure the person you hated died and the person that you loved survived. And one of the things, and then it was kind of a cool little game, and just negotiation, whatever. And then, but there was an expansion that said the obvious necessary cannibal expansion was because of and then recently a guy contacted me about a game he's going to have in Kickstarter here in the relative near future, I think in October. That it is a very very in-depth thematic game that is based on the old cannibal Holocaust movies of like the exploitation movies from the 70s. And so, like those horror movies, and I was like, "Well, I gotta see this," and it's very, well, it's interesting to say the least. So why a cannibal theme? How did you come up with this?
So Zimby Mojo was, for some reason, it's one of the few games that came into my mind almost fully blown. So the basic gist is, you play the shaman, the all-powerful shaman of a tribe of vicious, little, ruthless often inept cannibals called zombies. You're trying to kill the cannibal king, so the first part of the game is completely cooperative. You have to work with the other shaman to kill the cannibal king. When he dies, his crown drops, and then whoever gets it home first becomes a new cannibal king and wins the game. So it becomes totally cutthroat after that. Cannibalism piece comes in two forms. The first is, as the shaman, you're using your zombies at home. You're sort of tapping them for mojo, and you use that mojo to cast spells and move your guys and all this kind of stuff. But you can also eat them. And if you eat them, you get more mojo from them, but then they're off your board and you've cut your resources down. So it's a short-term gain. If you have your zombies on the board and they're stacked together in a little group, and they're only your zombies, you're not cooperating with anyone, you can eat some of your own guys and get either combat bonus or double the effect or double the range of one of the spells that you channel through your little zombies. So it's a long-term loss for a short-term gain, and you have to use it strategically.
Well, I do like that. I've always liked games that have where you have to like spend like victory points basically in a way to like to become like to you know, so you have to have that weighing the odds or whatever process. So I don't know. Like I said, I dig the theme, and I think it's going to be a cool game. And like I was talking to these guys before we went live. The weird thing is that unlike what seems like the vast majority of independent publishers, you don't use Kickstarter or Indiegogo or any sort of a crowdfunding process.
No, I don't. There's three reasons for that. The first is that I'm unabashedly lazy, and I don't want to take the time to make videos and handhold backers and such. The second reason is I changed my mind quite a bit in development, and I don't want to be tied down to a product that I can't change at the last minute, so I have a lot more freedom. And the third reason is, and this may be old-fashioned or it may just be me, is I don't feel comfortable not having skin in the game. So if I put this out with my own money and then people buy it, that's great. But I've got skin in the game. So I'm going to do everything I can to protect that investment. And I think that helps me put out a better product at the end.
So I mean, like, what you say, you skin in the game or whatever. I mean, is it any one of those things where, you know, it's like have you ever questioned your decision? I mean, have you ever said, maybe I should have crowdfunded this or whatever?
Yeah.
To like, you know,
turn down free money. Yeah, I question it all the time.
Well, I didn't want to put it that way. It's just it was like one of those things where it was you know, I mean, like there's other, we've talked about Kickstarter many times in this show and other places as well, and it's one of those things where I feel like I understand from a smaller publisher setting, and I don't mean to dig too much into you and what you do, but I mean, you know, you spoke about, you know, your past and your other jobs and what you've done and what have you, and you seem like you're I'm not gonna be well, how do I even put this? You seem successful. Just put it that way. And it's just well no, and so but I mean, there are people that, like, I would say aren't in the same spectrum of you're successful, that I mean, they have to go that way. So I understand that, but I mean, then you see like established publishers like Queen and things like that will turn around and you know, like, they will still use Kickstarter, you know, because as you say, like, it's free money, it's just sitting out, and you know, and they use it. So I mean, I can see both sides. I mean, I guess.
So my philosophy is, you're right. I'm very blessed to be in a position in my career where I can afford to do this, and not everyone can, and I appreciate that. I think Kickstarter, Indiegogo, all these crowdfunding things are outstanding vehicles for folks to realize their dreams and to get that first game out or get their first product out. I think it's wonderful. I personally rankle at companies like these established companies using Kickstarter to basically assure that a market exists before they pour money into development of a product. It seems to me a little disingenuous in playing the system that it's not to the spirit of Kickstarter. Now, people will say, from an engineering perspective, if something's there, take full advantage of it. And that's one perspective. But for me, it seems to strike against the heart of what Kickstarter was trying to do. And Kickstarter's making money off it, so they're probably pretty happy with it. But I feel uncomfortable seeing a big company that can afford to do its own R&D and take its own risk kind of defray that risk by setting up a captive market before producing a product.
Like I said, I can see both sides. I mean, I would, if I ever did a Kickstarter for anything, whether it was for my videos or a game or whatever, the whole idea of it just kind of scares me. I mean, just like, putting your name out there and saying, hey, give me money, and then like after that's done, then you have this like sword of Damocles looming over your over you, waiting to fall.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, the other thing that goes on with Kickstarter, I think, is there are very few data sources that can be mined with any sort of scientific rigor to tell you what makes for a successful campaign. You have these anecdotal stories about what people did right and how wonderful it was, but you have all these other horror stories of how things failed and how terrible they were. And without understanding how those dynamics work, it's a very risky thing to get involved with unless you really need a lot of stomach lining, I think, unless you're an old pro at it.
So I mean, I've played Shadows of Malice. I have yet to play it with the expansion because I'm an awful person. Because I haven't been able to do it. I mean, it's a game that I've enjoyed. I like the game. Marco, for those of you listening, really enjoyed the game as well and did a fabulous video review. If you want to go back and watch that, has anybody else here played it?
I have not.
Nope.
I have.
What do you think about it? No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, like I know Joel Eddie gave it a kind of a meh review, but he's just kind of a big whiner. So I don't buy into his. I mean, I don't know. I guess I mean I'm not. I've been meaning to do the video for it for a while now, and it's one of those things where I think, if you, I don't know how would I mean, it's what would I mean? It seems almost like a throwback game. I can only assume that like you're kind of a longtime gamer, Jim. I mean, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I started. I was introduced to D&D back in like '77, and it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And even back then, when people said, "What are you playing?" we said we play Variant because we took all the rules and bent them to our will. We went back and took old classes. I don't know if you guys remember the witch class out of the old Dragon magazine and things of that nature. So we would play with everything we could, and our DM was absolutely one of the best, most imaginative guys I've ever met, but he was mathematically challenged. So just about anything was a high or low roll for him. So the thing about playing back then and playing games is as I got older and older, and as you see on your screen, ever older, is that the rules became so confining and things became so detailed and so explicit that it seemed like they squeezed a lot of the freedom out of the games and a lot of the ability to just make stuff up on the fly. And so when I did Shadows of Malice, I wanted everything to be imaginative. In fact, there is art on the cards, which I actually did in the span of about a day and a half just to have filler material. There was never supposed to be art on the cards. There was supposed to be no drawings of anything anywhere in the game. And then the playtesters at Gen Con 2013 told me to keep it. They said, don't change it, don't make it better. It reminds us of the old art that was in the Ardruin Grimoire or the old D&D comic book type stuff. And so that's why there's some art in it. But the whole thing I was trying to capture in Shadows of Malice was that old kind of Wild West freewheeling feeling where you can make stuff up. You still have a goal, but nothing's handed to you. There's nothing drawn for you. There's nothing predefined for you. It's all there for you to make up as you go and tell your own story. And that's why on the Geek, people come up with a variant or a new rule, and I say, yeah, use it. All I ask is you report back and tell everyone how it worked for you. Does that answer your question?
No, it does, and I think, and this is just my own personal belief that the fact that the game wasn't completely like the game itself didn't like spell it out for you completely in every single way. I think that was one of the things about it that I think for whatever reason people. I think in the deterministic world of board games, where the people want everything spelled out and explained, I think that kind of put them back on their heels a little bit with this design. So
yeah, I think you're right, and it does make some people feel ill at ease. I think that Nate Owens put it very well in a review he recently wrote, where he said, "It's not for everyone, but the people who enjoy it will really enjoy it." And it takes you kind of have to say, I'm not going to play this game as though it's another version of something else. I'm going to play it for what it is and just accept it for what it is. And I think we'll have fun with it that way. But I also have to say one thing, Lance, about, we talked about not Kickstarters and all that kind of stuff. The other thing is about my personal position in life is such that I need to stealthily, quietly, slowly release games and let them grow. I can't have anything come out fast. I can't do a lot of advertising and drive sales up because I can't sacrifice the plan I've got right now for the next several years where I've got kids going to college and I've got commitments to make. So I'm on a very, very deliberate, slow growth trajectory.
Well, that's obviously. You're doing well for yourself. You had the big booth at Gen Con, and
the dancers.
There you go. All right, so I appreciate that. Now it looks like we got the rest of the zoo crew is slowly but surely filtering in. Well, actually, Anthony is here.
Hello.
All right, give me an impression.
Well, before we do that, I just looking at the ratings on Board Game Geek for Jim's game, and the fact that Luke Hector gave it a 4 makes me want to play it.
Who gave it a 4?
Luke Hector.
Why do I know that name?
Luke Hector is the Broken Meeple, and he just hates everything that's actually fun. So,
why did I?
I feel better about that 4.
I'm looking here and I don't see Luke Hector on here.
He's Farmer Giles on.
Oh, so I'm looking at comments and not ratings. Sorry. If you click, there you go. Now let me scroll here. How do I not know this guy? Well, you know what? Everybody always says whenever anybody posts anything, you're like, oh yeah, so and so, whatever. Like they say, so and so said this, and then you always say, waiting for Lance to say, who is that? Because I never know anybody, but anywhere. All right, okay. I think I've heard of him before. I can't, but oh well. Good for him. Hey, opinions are great, right? We can all have opinions. But give me some. Give me a little bit of what do I need here? I need some. I've never had you do like. Can you do a James Gandolfini? Probably not.
James Gandolfini.
Yeah, No, okay. Just throw some.
You throw them out like you think I'm like a professional like impressionist or something. Like I'm Rich Little.
Is Rich Little alive, by the way?
I believe he is.
He's got to be like 100.
Someone go look that up. Keith.
Yeah, Keith, pull it up. Come on, minion. Well, just give me some Pacino and then we'll move on.
He's 76. He's still alive.
He's only 76?
Wow.
He was old like 10 years ago.
He was old
Was
like
it-
30 years ago.
Yeah,
Was it Frank Gorshin who died then?
I like when you say only 76 because that's only 4 years from 80, so it's not like he's young.
well, yeah, but I mean, my dad is 71, and he doesn't mean like. And I was just out like chopping wood with him the other day. I mean, like I guess that's my barometer as like my father. So I mean,
That's just a good thing that we're at the point where 76 doesn't seem ancient to people, I guess.
Is it so cold in Minnesota that you have to chop wood in September because it's over 100 degrees here in Cali right now? I'm wearing a freaking tank top in September because it's melting. I turned off the air conditioner so I could hear you guys.
You're wearing a tank top because it's your style.
hey, it's John Rott, everybody.
I'm a t-shirt guy. I'm a t-shirt guy. It's freaking hot today, man.
John
Oh,
Rott
man.
is one of those people that used Kickstarter, Jim.
Yes. Yeah, I saw the discussion a few weeks ago with John. I met him at Gen Con. He's a genuinely wonderful guy.
Oh, look at that.
Appreciate that.
That'll be $10.
Hey, I too was looking at your Board Game Geek ratings and want to say I'm impressed. Let's be honest. Anything that stays over 7.5 on BGG is pretty impressive. Anything that averages over 8 is got to be great.
Oh, well, thank you.
So you don't have a single rating under 4. I mean, good for you, man. That's all good signs. I mean, and everybody 4s like it's just going to be what it's going to be. We got a 1 at one point. I ended up erasing it, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
We average over 8 also, but we got a couple. We got a 1, and then we got a 2, and I'm like, did you actually play the game yet? And they're like, no. So they took the rating.
So I had one guy who shall remain nameless who disparaged the game on several forums, and I sent him an email and I said,
Was it? We can just say it was Joel Eddy, even if it
no,
wasn't.
it wasn't.
That's what I just said.
Can we just say it was Joel Eddy though? I mean, just for fun.
So I said, I'll tell you what.
So Joel Eddy, I'll tell you what. So just go back and say,
I'll
so
say-
Joel Eddy, I'll tell you what.
So I told the guy, let me send you a copy of the game, and you can play it. And if you don't like it, send it back to me. And if you like it, you can pay me at Gen Con. So he came and paid me at Gen Con. It was really nice. Now what I should have done is said, now go delete all those posts you made, but I didn't.
Oh, I totally would have asked him to do that. I just had a backer write me earlier today and said,
Was it Joel Eddy?
No,
Just say it was Joel Eddy, please. Just say so. Joel Eddy.
Joel Eddy Show.
played my game. He still hasn't played it.
So Joel Eddy, one of your backers, Joel Eddy,
Okay, so
contacted you.
Who has a pseudonym of Joel Eddy? No, because Joel Eddy hasn't played my game yet, and this guy loved it. So this guy wrote me and was like, "Oh, I love your game. Thank you so much. You're like this 100% is the best new co-op game since blah 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 blah." And I was like, "Hey man, thanks. And if you have a BGG account, I wouldn't mind a sweet rating." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you're a small publisher. I'm honest. I'm not. If you tell me that you like it, and I think I've seen you on BGG, I'm not too ashamed to ask. You know, that's how especially when you got people running around like people who disparaged you. I think I mentioned this 2 weeks ago. I had a guy who ripped the King's Armory apart for this giant post in the forums. It's still all up there. You can read it. And then after this like 2.5 page rip apart of details of the game,
That Joel Eddy wrote?
Joel Eddy mentioned that he didn't even finish playing the whole game yet. You know, like, why are you going to disparage?
Damn that Joel Eddy.
Joel Eddy's so questionable. His ripping apart games he hasn't played yet. Just saying.
I think it's when people put ratings out there, I think it's fine. It's an expression of their opinion. I think that's great. But if you're going to be particularly kind or particularly harsh on someone, it seems like you should be required to leave a comment to somehow give them some feedback on what you like to do it again or what you didn't like, so they can at least learn in their next design.
Sir, how dare you expect people to treat you like a human being? This is the internet.
Well, I think we can
I
all
forgot.
agree. I think we can all agree that if Joel Eddy just started treating people more kind, that this would be a better world. So.
I really wish that every time Joel Eddy made a post on BGG, every time Joel Eddy commented on a game, that a comment was required with it. Because even like my sevens, which for BGG, according to the actual BGG rating guide, seven's like pretty good because 10's like the Lord Almighty made this game. It's flawless. You know what I mean? So like you shouldn't rate anything a 10 based on the BGG scale. But on the like a 7's good, but you get a whole bunch of 7s, and I'm like, and then there's like 7.5s, and you're like, I want to know what the 0.5 means to you. I want to know what's keeping one more 0.5 from getting to an 8. Like, is there something? The game's complicated. Is there something that, like, can we chat about it? Is there something you didn't understand? Because people are posting things about, like, misunderstood and mistaken rules as they go along and things like that. Like, is this only a 7.5 instead of an 8 because you missed X, Y, or Z rule? You know what I mean? I wish there was a forum for supporting the dialogue about that. Because I've sent a couple private messages to some of the comments, thanking some of the higher ones and asking questions like that, such as, did you miss something? Is there something I can help with? To some of the brutally low ones, which I'm glad I did, because most of those brutally low ones ended up removing the rating based on our communication. I just wish that there was a manner of, I just really like people anyway, but I just wish there was a manner of communication for each of those that was like, that didn't feel like I don't want to email everybody because I don't want it to be like, hey, I want to rate your game, leave me alone. I don't want to be berated for it, you know what I mean? Like, because I want to respect that too. Like, finding that gentle balance. I wish that there was a way that would facilitate both, or like a checkbox when you rate it that says willing to be contacted by publisher for discussion or something like that would be cool. I don't know, just ideas.
Actually, that's a great thing. They're doing the redesign of the GUI now. That would be something nice to give to Scott.
Well, Scott might be logging in here in a little bit, so you can hit him up. The problem with the rating system is, well, I mean, and admittedly, let's just, like, I don't publish games, so like as far as my hatred towards it, like, really doesn't matter one way or the other, because it doesn't. The problem with the rating system is that if you require a comment, people are just gonna put, I'm gonna give it, I get a 7 and meh. You know, there's no way to like make them really fill it out. And also the thing is that, I mean, whatever, if you believe, you know, the whatever is that, you know, there's a algorithm or whatever in place that, you know, prevents anything from going too crazy, or, you know, so you can't have.
The algorithm doesn't include 10s, because I was 8.02, and then somebody rated me a 6, and it brought it down to 7.98, and then somebody rated me a 9, and it brought me back up to 8.02, and then somebody rated me a 10, and it stayed 8.02, because I've been watching it daily, and I got a new 10, and it didn't change. So
well, as long as you're not obsessed about it.
Yeah, really.
So.
You know what? My game hit retail 3 weeks ago, and my financial well-being depends on this game being successful. So I obsess about it, and I'm okay with that.
So one thing about these the rating systems in Kickstarter is kind of interesting right now. Because of the success of Kickstarter allowing people to get their games out into the marketplace, the retailers have been flooded with more games
Why is there a
than they know how
scary
to handle.
baseball talking to me right now? What's with the scary baseball?
There's a scary baseball?
Anybody else see the scary baseball?
He lost
No,
video.
you're just crazy.
Okay. Jim, you have a scary baseball. You lose your video. Okay, go ahead.
All right,
Well, my head is shaped like a baseball. But anyway, so there's so many games on the market now, and so many coming out from Kickstarter, that the retailers are at a loss on how to determine what to order from their distributors. So a lot of them are actually going to sites like BGG and looking at the rating. And from what I've been told is they want to see a rating between a 6 and an 8. And they want to see most of the density there. They figure if it's above an 8, you got all your friends and family to log in 10s. And if it's below a 6, it's not going to be successful on their shelves. So one of the unintended consequences of a successful stream of games is perhaps an inability of retailers to really match games with their local market. So it's kind of interesting to see how how these ratings are now becoming more important than they probably should be.
I realized I haven't rated like much, so as we're talking, I'm just rating like everything in my collection.
All fives?
Not quite, but it mostly lives in the area from 5 to 7 with a few 8s.
Hey, Keith,
Because I think that's probably where it belongs, or I wouldn't own it anymore. I would have given it away.
can you do us a favor there, Keith?
I don't own your game. I can't rate it.
Can you put can you put a comment on each of your ratings?
No.
I'll give you that $10 you gave me.
Is that finding how to rate a game for the first time is nigh impossible, so a lot of new users can't even do it. But then the where to put a rating and where to put a comment are in two different spots, and that's why there's so many more ratings than comments, because
Well, if you see how I'm doing the ratings, then you'd see that you're not going to get comments because
you're just doing a search.
I'm using my collection and I'm scrolling through in these columns that say NA, NA, NA. Well, then
nice.
I'm putting numbers in now. So.
Well, good job actually updating your collection. That is not on the list of things that I've successfully done.
I keep my collection up to date.
You're a tough raider, man. Look at all these 5s and 7s.
I'm telling you, it's all going to be 5 to 7, man.
I don't
5
have
is a
to
good game.
It's
5 is a good game.
I mean, I understand the ratings and everything or whatever. It's one of the things that's weird about it is that it's so frickin' time consuming to go through each and every one and find your thing and pick this and do that. It's just I remember I used to update my collection on Board Game Geek whenever I got something new. It's like the first thing I did, and it's just like. No, I'm not, my collection that's listed there isn't even close to being correct. Every once in a while, I will sit there and I'll see it, and I will like, oh, okay, I need to grab that, and I need to switch it and replace this, that, and the other thing, and just like, cause I haven't owned that game in years, I realize that, and it's just, but it's still, yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just.
I mean, it's in a positive way. I think you're a bit of an exception though, because you end up with a much bigger collection than your above average gamer. Because of what you do for the community. So I don't blame you for not updating your collection. I can't imagine how long that would frickin' take.
If you blame me, I wouldn't listen to you. And literally, my basement is a complete mess, and it's all my games. It's all my games. It's my D&D stuff. It's everything. It's spread out everywhere. My painting table behind me, and every time my wife walks down here, she somehow manages not to murder me. When she sees me, shortly after it. Yeah.
Keep her.
So it's one of those things where it's just and every day I tell myself I need to block out 2 or 3 hours at a time, to work on getting this stuff taken care of, and it's just it just doesn't it just hasn't flown yet. It's just one of those things where it's just every time I have 2 or 3 hours, it's there's just something else always comes up that I'd rather do or I want to take care of. And yes, well, woe is me, right? What a horrible problem to have, to have too much gaming stuff. I am gonna try to sell off around 100 to 200 games sometime in the relatively near future. And I just want to get rid of them. I'm going to be selling them on a good 50% off, just to get them out of the house.
Apparently, I'm becoming jaded because I keep lowering ratings on games I previously rated.
It's part of your growth.
I guess so.
Also glad you haven't played our game just yet.
Well, if it's fresh in my mind, it'll probably get a better rating.
Oh, okay. We'll have to figure out a way for that to work out sometime. You're a cool guy, so we'll figure out something.
See, I would have to play it first because since it's tower defense, and I despise PC tower defense games, that's why I didn't. I would have picked up your game flat out at Gen Con, except for I knew it was a tower defense game, and I know how much I hate those games because they do not click for me.
I'd love to just. You're one of the few people I've ever met that didn't like them in general, and then I'd like to hear that just about with regard to our game. And
That's why I should try your game and find out if I like it better. Because, like, I like Xenoshift from Cool Mini, which they described as a tower defense game, but it did not feel like a tower defense game to me. So I liked it on my initial couple of plays. Then after a few plays, I didn't like it anymore. So, but I don't know. It's tower defense reminds me kind of real-time strategy games in some aspects, and I don't like those either. I have never been good at those games, and I think if I'm not at least decent at something, I tend to have a dislike for it as a genre.
So can I ask you guys a general game question in terms of setting and universe?
No. Next question.
In that,
Let's move on.
okay. I have a second question. So what I found interesting.
First question.
What I found interesting is there's a bunch of designers trying to design original stuff. There's a bunch of designers designing new games in known universes, the Star Wars games, the Firefly games, and so on and so forth. Do you guys have any preference or different feeling if you're playing something that's original versus playing something that's in a universe that's already predefined for you?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I don't.
And do you have a preference of one or the other?
Go ahead.
Okay, I think this is gonna sound stupid, but I think I prefer both. But because I have a favoritism for each one for different reasons. Like when I'm playing in, oh, sorry, Lance, you can talk. Wife's coming in with sleeping baby, so I have to hush up for a moment.
Oh, how's the sleeping baby?
It's sleeping, baby.
Anthony, you answer the question.
It's not here.
Oh, what happened to him?
He dropped out.
We killed him.
Just scared him off with the Pacino thing.
Aw.
Keith?
Yes?
Okay. That's it.
I thought I was going to say here.
It might as well have been. Repeat the question so I can actually consider it better.
So the question is basically if you look at the class of games that are being designed that are trying to be original,
okay,
versus the class of games that are being designed to fill into known and established universes and storylines, like
so
Star Wars and Firefly.
Established IPs versus fresh new content.
Exactly.
Okay.
Do you have a preference for one or the other, or do you look for different things in those two different classes?
I look for different things in those two classes. I'm always appreciative of fresh new IPs, and I will not hesitate to try it if it looks like a good game. The challenge is if you are a fresh new IP, you have to do it right out of the gate, and you have to grab attention, or you will be buried under the piles of slag that exist out in the market right now. Whereas an established IP is going to get attention even if it's a mediocre game, because it is right there in the public consciousness. So if a new Star Wars game comes out, I'm going to go, ooh, shiny, because I love Star Wars. And I'm going to go run and look at it. But
even if it's Lupin Chewie?
I don't,
what if it's a Jar Jar Binks game?
Do I get to kill Jar Jar? Do
No,
I get
you
to
have to
freeze him
play
with
him.
Carbonite? So, I mean, it depends. But I'm at least going to go look and see if I'm interested in it. I may decide it's a pile and not like it in the end, but at least it's going to get my attention. Whereas if you could have a very good game, and until you get enough word of mouth and buzz out there to say, I know this looks kind of weird, but you need to try it, and then I get hands on it, then I might get hooked, and then I'll go out and talk about how great this game is. But it is a very big uphill battle for the person with a fresh new idea. Now, in our hobby, though, IP licensed games have been looked down upon for quite a while because there's so many that were just enormous turds. But that's changing right now when you've got people like Gale Force that they're selling the crap out of every IP game they're doing right now. They find somebody that likes those games. I had no interest in WWE. I had no interest in Sons of Anarchy. I had no interest in Firefly, to be honest. But there were a lot of people that had interest in all three of those titles, and they sold like crazy. And, you know, the first one they did was Spartacus. And when Spartacus launched at Gen Con, what was it, 3 years ago? I mean, I walked past that and I saw, oh look, somebody's doing something off of that Stars TV show, which I hadn't even watched. I didn't even take a look. And then buzz, 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 buzz. I played that game. I'm like, this game's awesome. This is a cool little game. It's aged a little bit over the past few years, but it really got some buzz. And I'm not sure if it would have happened without that license to at least hook the first few people in. If it had just been generic Gladiator game, I'm not sure that would have happened for them. There, I rambled a lot.
I think sadly it's just we live in a society where, like, I mean, look at Fantasy Flight. I mean, they have the money to throw at it and just whatever, but look at Fantasy Flight and their Terranoth stuff. I mean, nobody gives a damn about that theme. I mean, it's just, it was just like they based Rune Wars, which is a really, really good game, but they based it in that world, and it's just kind of like, meh. The new Battle Lore, which, like, oh, here's Battle Lore, and we're gonna like wait a year and a half before we come up with an expansion for it or whatever it was. That whole like world of Terranoth that they've created, that I think is just like the like the default. Like if we okay, here we have a game, and we have the premise of a game. Now can we find an IP for it? And then if it just sits there and they develop it and develop it and develop it, and then they get to that point where it's just like, well, it's like we haven't found a good IP for this yet. All right, let's just put it in the world of Terranoth and just pump it out there. So like all the time and effort and money we've thrown at the developing now can pay off in some way. I mean, that's just the way I feel about that, the way that works.
Well, I think you've got evidence of that, kind of like at Gen Con this year at the In-Flight Report. They announced the new, is it Rune Wars or Runebound? The
new Rune Wars.
Rune Wars.
Right, the new Rune Wars.
Oh, Runebound, sorry.
Yeah. And everybody went, yay, Mm-hmm. If that had been a new game, exact same system, but it was Star Wars, they would have went, ah! And that's the difference. Nobody cares.
I'm sorry. What would they have done?
Yeah, you saw it. That was my Kermit the Frog. Get over it. You've got rewind on YouTube.
No, the thing is that it was one of those things where, but I wasn't there, but I heard when they announced they announced Warhammer Quest, like the entire crowd was like, "Oh my God, yes, thank you, the card game." Oh,
yeah, it was pretty, it's just you've got it right. That's kind of how it went over.
Just like letting the air out of the balloon. It was just, which whatever. I just don't even get me started on that. That just upsets me. But whatever. One day, Warhammer Quest will get reprinted. I don't know when, but I think one day it will. Yeah.
For me, it depends on the company, I think. Like Keith was saying, there's been a lot of IPs that were done very poorly. Cryptozoic, IDW still is. So for me, it depends on the company.
I don't, because Cryptozoic has good games, so I don't. But like, what I think was that Keith, what you said, Cryptozoic, where your favorite IP has gone to die for the last 5 years and counting. Just like, yeah. Oh wow, nice. But that's.
Yeah. And like he said, if your new universe isn't spectacular, it's just going to get lost in the shuffle. So if you're going to create a new universe, you better do it very well from the beginning.
Well, I mean, look at Ashes. I mean, that's a good game. I mean, it's not my type of game, but I enjoy it. And they came up with this whole weird world of these Phoenix-born people and these different powers and abilities, and they really spend a lot of time, coming up with the ideas behind, the different like people and their followers and what have you, and there's obviously some like effort there, but I don't see anybody caring. I mean,
but they do care about mice and mystics.
Yes.
Well, Yeah, that's
Because
true. But I mean,
you've got cosplayers. If you've got cosplayers, you've done your job with your new IP.
well, yeah, maybe. But I mean, can you think of? And you and I and a lot of us are going to go like that. But can you imagine if they had done Phoenixborn, or if they'd done the Ashes theme, but they were able to tie in like Twilight, like all the different the different vampire lords or whatever, and werewolf lords and things like that, and use like the Twilight like IP for it. I mean, that game would have just exploded. I mean, it would just be like because it's one of those things where, or any of that other like paranormal teen romance stuff, Divergent or
Yeah, because those are people with all the money to spend on games.
well, I'm serious. It's just like you'd probably have to dumb down the gameplay a little bit, but I mean, not that I think Ashes isn't going to sell well. It's going to sell great, but if you can take the IP and like tie it into a decent game, that's popular. I mean, it's like there's an art to it. I mean, there's a trick to it. Like one of the like best games like that I've intellectual property that I own, and this is gonna sound really silly, is the Buffy the Vampire game, which I was never a really big fan of Buffy the Vampire. I had a couple friends who did, but that game that was like it should not have been on the shelves in Target. I mean, it was a more complex game than people ever would have thought. The people that would normally, I'm kind of talking my way into a box here, but the people that would have like said, "Ooh, a Buffy the Vampire game," they went and bought it, and then they got a game that was kind of like a light Arkham horror, and they're just like, "This is way too complicated. I just want to spin a die and see if Buffy like starts dating the vampire already or something." I mean, it was just, so I mean, it's an interesting problem, I guess, if you will. But I mean, I don't know. It's I don't know. It's such a weird world. Designer board games are so weird because like if you sell 10,000 copies of your game, I was talking to does anybody have the gong ready? I was talking to James Matthew the other day. Oh, sorry. I was talking to James Matthew the other day, and he was saying if you can sell 10,000 copies of a game, you are in the top 10th of board game sales as far as like games out there. So it's like, and 10,000 units of something, I mean, doesn't sound like a lot, but for the designer board game world, it's a ton.
Yeah.
My grandfather always used to say, he always used to say, do you want to be a millionaire? And I would say yes. And he would say that find you design something that like he would say find something that you can make that like 10,000 people will pay you $100 for or something like that. He was like, and that's how you make $1 million or whatever. It was like, and it's just so I don't know. It's one of those weird things. Chris Peach just said he also knows not much. That is not right. I might be misquoting James Matthews, so don't take that to credit. But I wouldn't doubt James because of the fact that he is. This is poor radio because I'm responding to a typed word here. The comment was James adding in James Matthew doesn't know much because that stat is not right. First of all, like I said, I might be misquoting him, so please take that with a grain of salt. And then Chris Peach's next statement is tons of Kickstarters do runs that high and reprint. I would posit straight back that I don't think tons of Kickstarter do 10,000 game runs.
No, there's no way. There's no way.
And
Kickstarter's about 2,000.
They might do 1,000.
Yeah.
They might do 1,000. So I mean, which is understandable. But even that, comparatively, like I remember one time, like just for fun, I'll go into board game. I'll go into I'll go on to Kickstarter and I will just see how many board game projects are on there. And there's at any given time, is you know, a good 200 or 300 board game projects in there. It's just ridiculous. But they just it's like and admittedly a lot of those aren't you know, getting done. You know, it's just like, but you know, so I don't know. It's just the board game world is not the same as anything else where like you need to sell 50,000 units of whatever, you know, or what have you. And it's just because of, I'm assuming, I mean, I got publishers right here. I mean, we have John and Jim. I mean, it's just because, you know, you do a run of like, well, what was your first run, John? What was your first run of King's Armory? I mean, how many copies of the game?
Through Kickstarter, we were going to do a minimum print run of 1,500. Believing in it for retail, we sprung for an extra 500 copies, so we did a 2,000 run so that we would have a large run in retail.
And Jim, if you don't mind me asking, what was nice? It was Jim. What would you say? What was your print run for Shadows of Malice?
So I talked with Aldo Gozzi about this before I went in, and his advice was, don't print more than 2,000. Shoot for 1,500. His experience has been that more than 90% of the games that he represents will never sell more than 500 units. So I put in an order quantity of 1,500. They delivered 1,632, and with the overs. And I think I currently have about 240 left at the warehouse.
Well, that's pretty cool. That's got to be Anthony with the money.
That sounds like this little Fisher-Price cash register my daughter has.
It sounds like the opening to the Pink Floyd song, "Money."
I love that song.
Well, that's just a great album. I busted that album out just a few days ago just to listen to while I was doing some miniatures painting, and I was like, wow, it just took me back to being gloomy and despondent and 17 years old, sitting in my basement room in my parents' house thinking nobody understood me.
One of the best jokes I ever saw in a TV sitcom was this girl was out and she lied to her parents and said she was upstairs listening to their old albums. And they got all really excited. Oh, what'd you listen to? And she goes, Pink Floyd. They totally rock. And they looked at her and said, you are so busted. Pink Floyd does not rock.
Well, I mean, I remember a buddy of mine, a buddy of mine, Jeff. He once said, he once said, you know, I kind of like it when like Pink Floyd plays a song like "Run Like Hell" because they actually like play their guitars like they aren't afraid of them for a while.
That's true.
That is true, but yeah. No, I mean, Chris, Seth never got that link. What? You check your email, Seth. Chris, I think you bring up some good points. You know, I am not an expert as far as publishing goes. I don't think selling 5,000 games is easy in the board game world, though. You know, and I
think most of the bigger publishers, their first print run is between 3,000 and 5,000.
3 and 5 is where you get a nice price break from domestic manufacturers, and what you end up paying in their higher unit costs, you end up saving in shipping because they can ship it by rail.
Right. Yeah.
That overseas shipping is a killer.
I'm talking like you know, Plaid Hat. I think their first run of Dead of Winter was, if I remember Isaac saying it was 5,000. Could be wrong, but yeah.
I think Ashes was 5,000. I mean, because I remember Who's Got the Gong or whatever. I remember when I talked to Colby about it. And, you know, when I name dropped, we had to come up with something just to. Thank you. When I talked to Colby, he said that like the buzz for the pre-orders was so huge that, and I think it was like 1,200 or something like that. It was something ridiculous that they you know just. And the game is relatively cheap manufacture-wise. That they dropped the 5, and that was right after, of course, that they just did the big merger with F2Z. So What? Who downloaded Soundboard and decided?
Fairly Anthony. But I mean, that goes to show how huge of a hit Dead of Winter was for Plaid Hat, though, because they did 50,000 in a year, which is insane.
They couldn't keep up with it. Yeah.
For a game that just isn't good, but whatever.
50,000 people think you are wrong, sir.
Now, 50,000 people haven't rated it on BGG yet. That's just the 50,000 who bought it.
Hey, they're going to stand by it. They paid.
Well, okay. I mean, if we're gonna be completely honest, I can see why people enjoy the game. So I'm not taking anything away from anyone as far as that is concerned. So I can definitely see why people enjoy Den of Winter, but I mean that's just part of the whole. I mean that was catching lightning in a bottle because of the fact that, I remember when I did a podcast with both of the designers, Gilmore and Vega. Thank you. I mean, they didn't want to talk about the fact that it was they didn't want to talk about the fact that it had zombies in it. They wanted to just avoid that. But I mean, that's why that got interesting, or that's why that game, I mean, in my opinion, did as well as it did, because of the fact that you had a situation where people are like the whole zombie thing, and just people getting excited about it. So
I tried it in spite of that because I was not a big zombie fan, but that game made zombies feel different than most zombie games.
Yeah, they were there, but they were in the background. Well, at one point they tried to get the zombies out of the theme. They tried werewolves or something. I forget what he said, but they tried a couple of different themes, and it just didn't work right with the other ones. Okay.
So I was saying that I like.
Meanwhile, back on Earth.
I know.
Meanwhile.
So John, you can back me up on this. I don't think it was until I first started to look into producing a product that I really understood the value of a penny.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It is unbelievable.
are you talking about as far as the cost as it goes up, as far as
just the cost of everything, and then the value of a penny times
1,500 units
times X expansions times shipping on each of those orders times whatever. It's an awful lot of pennies. It's an awful lot of pennies when you're doing it in bulk like that, and it just ends up. They say that nickel and dime to death. Like the nickels and dimes are terrifying. Being pennied to death is bad enough. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you a perfect example. So when I made Shadows of Malice, there's a standard thickness for boards. I think it's 2 millimeters or something like that. And I told them I wanted thicker boards. Okay, so I told them I wanted thicker boards. So I went up to either 2.5 or 3 millimeters on my hex boards. And it ended up costing about, I think, 9 cents a unit. And the way I looked at the cost structure, it was a tough decision. I wanted to give people the best thing I could, but then again the question was how much am I willing to pay? And my wife looked at me and she said, all right, who do you want to make happy, you or the gamers? I said, well, the gamers. She said, then pay the dime. So in the right context, it's a clear decision, but I've never agonized so much about a dime.
Yeah, it's a tough one. We for King's Armory, we doubled the thickness of our boards in a stretch goal, but we had planned for it in the budgeting of stretch goals. So if that was a later decision that wasn't pre-planned or worked into the budget, then that's a scary dime.
What is this planning and budgeting of which you speak?
All right, so
it's a rare and uncommon thing that occurs on Kickstarter.
I am going to. I'm gonna switch gears here. Not that this isn't fascinating or anything like
Oh,
that.
switch
But
gears, man.
I want to throw a wrench into the works because Anthony actually, because like I know Anthony has a little bit of well, I don't know if he's got an axe to grind, so to speak, or not. But in regards to the Force Friday, did everybody go out for Force Friday? Did anybody do anything for Force Friday? Was it
That
just,
movie come out? Is that what that was?
I literally tried to make sure I did nothing, and then I went to Target like in the middle of the day the next day, and I managed to get all 10 of the small black box vehicles, the $5 ones, just because they were still sitting there, and I had a coupon for like $10 off, $50 or more, or whatever, Star Wars stuff. So I got those. But anyway, did anybody else get anything on for Force Friday? Did anybody order their own programmable BB-8?
I
thing's
ordered
really
the X-Wing game.
The what?
The X-Wing game, the new core set based on the Force Awakens.
I'm not gonna bother with that.
I bought that.
Can't.
It
I
goes
can't.
into my X-Wing collection, so I'm a collector.
Anthony, did you do anything on Force Friday?
Actually, I didn't. I purposely didn't because it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen or heard of in my life.
Tell me how you really feel.
Well, here's the problem with Force Friday and this whole Star Wars marketing thing they're doing. I understand they did the same thing when Phantom Menace came out. Everything had Star Wars all over it. The issue, though, now is they are trying to be exclusive in so many different places that they're really screwing over the people who are spending the money. Disney Infinity 3.0 came out on Force Friday. Star Wars edition.
It was out before Force Friday, Anthony.
Well, it was all over the place on Force Friday.
Yeah.
But Boba Fett is only available if you have a PS4.
Only, not just PS4. You have to buy the right edition for PS4.
Oh, okay.
There is a certain PS4 edition that is more expensive that has Boba Fett, as well as Luke and Leia in it.
Yeah, and then another one is only available at Target. One's only available at Walmart. One's only available at Toys R Us. One's only available at my Aunt Shirley's house.
GameStop was the other one. Yeah, GameStop. You have to go to 4 different retailers to get 4 of the Star Wars Rebels figures. So they put one at 4 different major retailers. It was obnoxiously annoying.
Well, here's the thing about it. I grew up in New York City. We don't have Walmart in New York City. You have to drive. I think the closest one is an hour north of the Bronx. I think they maybe put one since then, but that's like that's one of those things where it's like, okay, you putting it in these stores. It's like putting it in only exclusive in a Myers store. We don't have Myers out here on the East Coast.
I don't have Toys R Us within an hour, so.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like the people will give you the money. Stop! Don't make it. You're not gonna make it exclusive. But that on top of that, it's all of these stupid Star Wars toys and stuff that came out. They just slapped it on everything, and it's just ridiculous. The die-cast vehicles you got are the die-cast vehicles of the ships. Did you happen to see all of the Star Wars Hot Wheels cars that they have too?
Those are modeled after the Star Wars cars that were not Hot Wheels, more expensive that they had at Disney World. You could buy. So they took that. They took that thing that they'd been doing just at Disney World for about $8 a pop and went mass market with Hot Wheels. But they've been doing Hot Wheels crap like that well before Star Wars. They do this stuff with toys constantly.
Well, I mean, I can remember being a kid and having to I remember my mom saved all the proof of purchases from all these Star Wars sets that I had, and then there was a special deal where you could send these proof of purchases in, and then 6 to 8 weeks later, they sent this giant package of like extra accessories, like different guns and different like backpacks and things like that I could put in my Star Wars figures. And if I had the presence of mind to leave that in the original packaging and not tear it open immediately and not use it, I mean that thing is like worth that one set is like worth a ton of cash, like as far as like those extra things. But that was like as far as exclusive went. I remember when Boba Fett was an exclusive figure for like a month. Like you could only get it like at certain locations for a little while, and then it just went full loaded.
You had to mail away for Boba Fett.
Yeah, you did
purchases initially. Yep.
And then then it just of course sold. And so here's the deal. So it's like and it's one of those things where they manufactured the exclusivity of it, like Anthony said. They made it exclusive with the whole black box thing. Like the special black box this and black box that, and like that theoretically is going to be worth more money. And like the ridiculous thing is I bought into it. I saw these things. I was like, wow, I can actually get all 10, huh? Well, I'll screw it. I'll just get them. Just like whatever. It's just money kind of thing. But I mean, if I had been smart, I probably would have just put them down. But they did look really cool. So I had that's how they get you though, because it just
they look cool, but they're not only available on that day. There were people like camped out like for freaking 24 hours, 48 hours ahead of time to be the first people to get Star Wars toys.
I love Star Wars, and I didn't buy any Force Friday Star Wars toys.
See, here's the other bullshit thing about toys these days. All right, for anyone who collects, not to send their kids to college, just collects for the enjoyment of collecting, superhero action figures or whatever. They do not distribute toys evenly anymore like they used to. So if the new Spider-Man movie comes out, and they release the pack of action figures. So in the box, there's 12 figures in the box. 9 of them are Spider-Man. 2 of them are something else, and 1 of them is the one that everyone runs to get. That's why you see grown men running into Toys R Us on Tuesday mornings when they unload the truck the night before, because there's only 1 of the rare in each box. And it used to be, back in the day, you got a box of 12, and there were 2 of this, 2 of this, the 6 figures, 2 of each one in the box. So you didn't have that stuff like that. And it's just totally insane what people... And they're not cheap anymore either. I mean...
No, I remember my old Star Wars figures were like $1.25 or something like that. I remember my old...
I'm not even going back that far, like when we were kids. I mean, I remember buying stuff for... my oldest son, which is only 20 years ago, and it was like $5 for the small 3.5-inch action figure. Now they're like, I think they're like $10 or $12 a piece in some places. It's like ridiculous.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's obviously really cool. My daughter is kind of interested in Star Wars, but my son is like just starting to realize it, and so it's kind of cool. We're like, he's starting to get excited about it, and we've watched the shows, and we're kind of tuning in and enjoying it together. And so I'm kind of excited that way.
Odds now.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm having fun with it, but it's just like it's one of those things too where I'm fairly tentative right now with the new movie and with everything else. It's I don't know. It obviously, theoretically the movie will be good, but they realized at some point that like they're going to just cash in hardcore with it. So
I love my Star Wars, but I've just got a bad feeling this movie is just going to royally piss me off. So
it's got to be better than the first one. Or
yeah, I'm afraid
the fourth one, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, I'm afraid they're going to do
Episode
Star
1
Wars.
didn't even piss me off. It just annoyed me.
I'm
it
afraid
was
they're going to
not
do this.
good.
I'm afraid they're going to do to Star Wars what Hasbro did to Magic, and that's just cash it out and just destroy it.
Oh yeah.
Well, Magic hasn't been destroyed. Have you seen how many people play that? So it's just
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's destroyed to us, because it's one of those things where like anything that like you felt like we have a weird like I don't know what's the word. We have a weird possession of things, of our passions, and we even though like in our hearts we understand why they're like cashing in and going for the money grab. We're like just hoping beyond hope that they just won't do that, and that they'll be cool and not go for the easy buck.
No, but they do, because it's one thing when they make the action figures for the characters in the movie, and they make the large dolls. They have stuff that is like this really weird. They're almost like Transformer figures. They look like that are Star Wars. Like what the hell is this? This is not part of the universe. Let's just take it and slap it on everything. And like I walked down the game aisle to see all of the new Star Wars games that came out. There was Star Wars Sorry. There was Star Wars Toss Across. Star Wars Battleship.
That one looks cool.
Which one? The Star Wars Toss Across?
Battleship.
Luke and Chewie.
You are part of the problem.
Looping Chewie, which I watch people tweet all day about how they were sold out. I can't get one. I'm like,
I don't like
20
Looping
at the
Chewie.
store right by me.
I'm waiting for Chia Chewie.
People don't realize they're trying to kill Chewie because Chewie's you're protecting stormtroopers and looping Chewie.
Yeah,
You're the Empire.
It is a very weird.
The theme makes no damn sense.
No, it doesn't. It's like you're trying to kill the stormtroopers, but not your stormtroopers. What?
You've got it. That's what's wrong with it.
All right, there were actually a couple of cool things though that did come out. And again, people scalping stuff. The BB-8 droid. There's two of them. There's like one that's more of a toy, that's actually still pretty cool. But the one that came out that you program with your phone is pretty awesome. Except for the fact that people bought them and then tried to turn around and scalp them on Amazon and eBay, like as if they were only available that day. They're not exclusive, people. Don't pay over retail for that thing. The other cool thing
at the website, they said their new shipment comes in like 2 weeks, and they're saying they'll have more to ship out, in no time, and it's free shipping from the website that creates it. So
the other cool thing that they had, and I don't know if anyone saw this, they have them at Toys R Us. I know that. I don't know where they have them all over the place, but it is a vinyl Stormtrooper head that is so you can paint it yourself and decorate it. It comes with stickers and markers and stuff, but it's really cool. It's a little small Stormtrooper head, and we're going to actually buy a whole bunch of them, me and my daughter and I, and we're going to decorate them all different ways and just put them all over the house. But
those
two things are cool. Those two things are cool.
You mentioned BB-8, which is my first nerd rage going into the new Star Wars movie, because he's a flawed design for an astromech droid. Because R2-D2, very simple utilitarian cylinder design. But when R2 needs to plug into a computer, his port that plugs into the computer, he knows exactly where it's at. It's right in front of him, so he drives up to it. Now, if your port is on a sphere, you have to roll at the exact precise timing to get your ball to roll to the port right when you arrive at that access point.
You're making an assumption. Why couldn't BB-8s come out of like the top of his whatchamadig, and like it's more of like a like tentacle type of thing?
Maybe, but it's the stupidest design.
Or I don't know. What if BB-8 was?
Actually, you're right. His head is right at R2-D2's belly.
No, I mean seriously though, why couldn't BB-8 just be Wi-Fi? It doesn't. It doesn't have to have a direct port.
I just don't get the BB-8 thing. I think it just looks dumb.
Hey everybody, Seth Jaffe is here, head game developer for Tasty Minstrel Games. You're going to are you going to Grand Con? No, you're going to you're doing your RingCon thing, right?
When's Grand Con again?
2 weeks.
Yeah, a couple weeks. The last weekend in September.
Oh no, yeah, I've got RingCon like the first week of
Both,
October.
your boss is going to be there for one.
Yeah, Mike's going.
Yeah, Mike and Dan, I believe, are going. Never mind. You won't be.
No.
You're too cool.
Yep, cool.
How you been, Seth?
I've been very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thanks, buddy. How is the
Good to see you again, Seth. Been a couple days.
Yeah, I saw you just. Seems like 2 days ago.
All right. That's one of the few people I get from this industry I get to see on a fairly regular basis because he comes out to LA Strategicon, so we run into each other.
Yeah.
how's the Kickstarter for whatchamajig doing right now? The expansion.
Like the thing that's on my bottom third that you could just read.
Yes.
It's doing. Not. It's doing. Let's just check on it. It's about almost halfway funded. Funding's been going a little slowly. I'm not really sure why. Maybe there are lots of things out there, or maybe this game. It's been too long since the base game came out, or I don't know. It's unusual.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Kings are in Steam rules, so I don't know why. I mean, what's the expansion? I mean, the expansion is going to. Well, why don't you tell us about the expansion? Give us the in 60 words or less. What does the expansion for Kings are in Steam do for the base game?
So for those who don't know what we're talking about, Kings of Air and Steam is a game that came out in, I want to say 2012 or 2013, I forget. It's a pick-up-deliver game by Scott Alms, where you drive your airships around to pick up goods at factories, drop them off at your train depots, and then use your train network to deliver them to cities. And it's really good. I like it a lot. Lance likes it a lot. So there you have it.
It is the best pick-up-and-deliver game out there.
Yeah, so the expansion that is on Kickstarter right now is called Kings of Air and Steam World's Fair, and the idea is that it adds technologies, inventions and things you might find at a World's Fair. And what you do is you draft them before the game. You do a little draft type thing to get a few of these inventions, and then during the game, instead of your usual action, you can play one of these technology cards to get some really cool ability. Or some nifty action, or if you can draft a good combination of them, they do really cool things. Unusual, some do really unusual things, just very valuable, or let you open up another path to victory for you. And then there's also two more teams of airships, and each airship team has two different possible pilots. So you can pick your team, and then once you've got your team, you can pick your pilot. And it's also got something that was originally a really high-end stretch goal, but some of the people who had playtested the game really wanted to see it in the game and didn't want to risk it not funding all the way to the stretch goal. So the contracts module was added into the game as soon as it funds, which is kind of a thing that makes you explore the board more and use more of the game, whereas without it, you could just kind of pick up the same goods all the time. And this contracts thing encourages you to go to different factories and get different kinds of goods. So that is also in there. So hopefully something will happen. We'll get some funding going on, and that'll pick up the pace. But if anyone's interested in pick up and deliver type games, I recommend that you go check it out. You can get the base game on the Kickstarter, or just the expansion, or both.
Awesome.
So Seth, it says 2 to 7 players. Where did you come up with
That's
7 players? It's kind of an odd number.
Well,
Hey, I'd like to interrupt you for saying nobody told Seven Wonders 7 players is an odd number.
It's a prime number too.
Why are you giving Seth grief?
Technically an odd number.
I'm just curious. Usually it's like 2 to 4, 2 to 8, whatever.
Yeah. Why don't you call up Asmodee and see if they want to submit to your ridiculous questions for a while.
I'll submit.
All right, go ahead.
So as it turns out, originally the game was for 2 to 6 players, but since the planning portion of the game happens simultaneously, there's not really much downtime or additional downtime if you had another player. And when we had the initial Kickstarter for the game, we had enough funding to add another team of captains. When we went from also originally all the airship teams all the airships were the same, so everyone would be on the same sort of starting point, the same airship statistics and everything. What we did in development was we added characters. So each ship was a little bit different, or each captain had different powers, and we basically had a bunch of them to choose from, and we cut it down to 6. So we had additional captains we could use, and based on funding, so the problem is each new team needs a little deck of cards and a player board and some pieces. So, but we reached enough funding to add that in, so we managed to make it a 7 players worth of stuff in the game. The box is pretty much full as it can be, with cardboard and plastic airships and pieces like that, wooden pieces. There's a whole lot of space in that box.
They have some really,
you
have some really cool airships miniatures, though. I like those. Those things are awesome.
They're more like maxitures. They're not very many.
No,
that's something that they were a little bigger than maybe we expected. And one of the things we were thinking about for this campaign was to possibly make an alternative for people who didn't like the size of the airships. I'm not, we'll have to see if we even need to worry about that if funding doesn't pick up a little bit.
Fair enough. Has anybody got any like grievances or anything that they think the world is going crazy or anything like that? Anything in the board game world that's bothering them right now?
Yes, but I'm not authorized to talk about it.
He's going to talk about Joel Eddy, isn't he?
Yeah, that damn Joel Eddy.
Is he even in the comments right now? Is he? Because I'm not watching the Facebook.
No, I haven't seen him.
YouTube.
I think we're just talking smack just to talk smack.
Oh, good. Good for him.
Well, Joel Eddy's too cool for school. He doesn't show up for this very often. So.
My board game Dander's not up right now, so.
Will it be up tomorrow, Keith?
No, it won't be up tomorrow.
Okay.
No,
well,
I mean,
I know Anthony seems to have a problem that like when Kickstarters sell their games at conventions, but they haven't delivered them to backers yet.
I asked the question if anyone else thinks that, not the fact that you sell them, but do not expect other people to get upset after you sell at several conventions.
Well, I think it's just it's if it was a company that had just one Kickstarter or one product, people would lose their mind over it. I mean, look at Seth. I mean, we've talked that to death. I'm not going to have him go over it again, but I mean, look at Eminent Domain when they actually sold copies of Eminent Domain, at Gen Con. Before backers got their copies. I mean, people.
But they did sell it at Gen Con, Dragon Con, and PAX before.
Well, true, but I mean, people lost their. But that was like one of the first ever Kickstarters. If you have an established company and you have several Kickstarters out there and you've had several very successful Kickstarters, people kind of give them a pass a little bit, and they just.
Well, here's the thing, though, Lance. Seth, how long after that Gen Con did you guys send them out to the backers? Wasn't it when you guys got back?
Well, so the thing was that at that Gen Con, the main shipment was on a boat, like in the ocean, so it was just a couple weeks out. We had airshipped a small, like 50 copies, some very small amount, to Gen Con, so that we would have something at Gen Con. And then, of course, that didn't go over very well with backers. But it was, as soon as the stuff arrived, it was sent out. It was, I don't know, a couple of weeks later.
Okay, so it wasn't like you sold it at there and then the boat left 3 weeks after the convention ended.
Boat, I think it was on the water at the time. I don't know the dates involved, but
I don't remember it being that far past when it happened. And people understand the fact that if you're paying for space at Gen Con, you're going to sell copies of the game there.
Some do.
At the time, I know at the time it was a whole different story, but I think people are getting used to that fact now. It's just that, you're selling at 3 conventions now, and backers are being told their stuff is not going to hit the shores here until October, and then by the time it'll get shipped out, maybe you'll have it by November. Yes, I would expect some people to be upset to buy it, and you have to expect that.
I think that's because of the exclusive Kickstarter content, though. I mean, that's just the reason why. I mean, it's just the shipment. I mean, and I get the frustration, and I get the. Let me put my dog down here. I get the frustration. I understand it, but I mean, if they have two separate shipments, and then basically the Kickstarter is like a different box, and it's got more stuff in it and everything else, and it's exclusive. I mean, like literally exclusive. It won't ever be published theoretically, for the game normally. Then, it just takes longer. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, it's annoying, but I think we're reaching that point now where, I backed this game on Kickstarter. I just have to expect that I'm going to kind of be bent over a little bit before I get my stuff. And I think people will just kind of expect it now, and are genuinely surprised. And are genuinely surprised when they. It's like, holy cow, really? I got my stuff with hardly a delay? I mean, it's just like...
Oh, yeah, we're surprised by that, but I see it both sides. If I was running the business, I would see it that way. But this is such a significant delay from when the convention buyers got the game and the backers got the game that it does rub you a little bit worse because, let's face it, a lot of us we're followers of the cult of the new. And if the game's already there being played, if your friends have got, one of them bought that game and they're done with it by the time you get your exclusive copy, you're no less pissed off about it.
This is horrible radio, so just so everybody knows, we are discussing Blood Rage, the game from Cool Mini or Not, which, I may add, is an amazing game that I think, like I said...
I don't know. I'm still waiting for my copy.
Oh, well, like I said, I mean, and when I was at
Let me get the ground. Hold on, I don't have the ground. Because I know what's coming.
I thought you'd have it ready. When I was at Gen Con, I actually was approached by Eric Lang, the designer. Yes. And
that should cover this conversation.
and yeah, he handed me a copy that he signed, which is pretty cool. So I've had a copy for a while now. No, a non-Kickstarter copy, I meant. But thank you. No, the game's excellent. So those of you who are waiting for your copies, you'll be very pleasantly happy with it. I'll say this about the game, and I don't want to like go into a review of a game right now, but
are you saying that the Blood Rage hasn't shipped yet?
It's on a boat. It's supposed to hit here sometime between October 7th and October 14th, depending on which boat you're on. And then by the time they get it and then repack it and send it out to us, it'll probably be sometime in November.
Let's be fair.
Did you go up at conventions or something?
They sold it.
Were they selling it at conventions?
At 3 different conventions so far, at least.
Okay, and just so people know, they shipped. There was, from what I understand,
especially from an established company.
Okay, but here's the deal. And this isn't an explanation, but in full explanation mode, the copies that have been sold at the conventions are the base game ones that are the no frills, non-Kickstarter. The actual Kickstarter games, from what I understand, you're not getting 2 boxes. You're not getting multiple boxes. You're getting the base box, but it's going to have all the Kickstarter stuff inside of it.
No.
And that Kickstarter,
no,
it isn't.
They never do that. You get the base game like everybody else gets, and then you get a separate box that has the extra stuff in it.
Because I thought. I mean, I don't know.
But they're packing those boxes together in China instead of assembling them in the U.S. this time. Is what they're doing differently.
Well, in all honesty, I mean, like the thing that probably, as far as the thing that's driving me a little bit crazy is, and I didn't hear about that until I think Anthony mentioned it too, the flying frog thing with.
Shadows of Brimstone.
With Shadows of Brimstone.
That one's worse.
And that's That's crazy, Anthony. Give the background on that one, and
Okay.
you even don't have to do it in Pacino voice. I mean, I don't mind Flying Frog. I think they make good thematic games, and I enjoy them a great deal. But this is, in my opinion, this is kind of a garbage thing. But go ahead.
Okay, so what happened with Shadows of Brimstone is they ran the Kickstarter the year before last.
Keith, pull it up. And I'll highlight you just so we, because it made a boatload of money. I mean, if I remember correctly.
It did. So for Gen Con last year, they gave backers the option to pick up their copies of just the 2 base sets that's showing in the picture there.
Yeah, 1.3 million.
Okay. So then they said, well,
pretty good game, too. Pretty good game.
We're going to have this. We're going to sell these at Gen Con. We're going to get them out shortly after, so on and so forth, blah, blah, blah. Then they said, since so many stretch goals got hit and so much stuff got added, that we wouldn't be getting the rest of the stuff until probably this summer. Okay. So this summer comes along, and they say, well, we don't have everything ready yet, but it'll all be ready after Gen Con. So what we want to be able to sell some stuff at Gen Con. So this is what we have ready. If you would like to get what is ready up to this point, and then waits just after Gen Con to get the rest of it, you can pay us an additional shipping charge. It was like $50 for the U.S. and $125 extra shipping to get a Wave 1.5. Well, Wave 1.5 never actually happened, and it hasn't happened yet. And again, they sold the Caverns of Cinder expansion, which was included in this, and a couple of other things that were included in this at Gen Con. They're actually in retail now also, so you can get them. If you didn't pay the additional shipping for the 1.5, the assumption was you would just get everything. You would wait just a little bit longer and get everything in Wave 2. So now they interviewed the folks from Flying Frog at Gen Con about the new stuff from Shadows of Brimstone, and the revelation came out in that interview that they're not even done with half of the stuff that still has to come, and it won't be ready till maybe sometime next summer. So which means that everything that they're finished with up until next summer, when everything is done, is going to be sold at conventions and in retail before the backers can get it. And that is just total bullshit.
It sounds like it's going to be absolutely forever before, and especially like you were able to like buy in on like these super high level stuff to like get extra minis, extra campaigns, extra stuff, extra this, extra that, and I didn't buy into the campaign at first, but then I piggybacked on top of somebody else.
Right, because they did piggybacking.
Yeah, and I don't want to. Okay, and this actually kind of dovetails pretty well if you've been listening to the whole thing, or if you've been with us since the beginning, or whatever. Jim, like you, I mean, it's just like I want to speak for Flying Frog. I don't want to say that I know what they did, but I know of other campaigns that basically when they see the money sitting there, they start thinking of any way they possibly can to get more of that money. And and that's like the piggybacking. That's what it sounds like to me, where it's just like, I don't know. Flying Frog, was this Flying Frog's first Kickstarter?
Yes, it was.
First and last, because they said they're not. They basically at the end of the day, they lost money on this campaign because they offered those minecart levels, which had ridiculously even more stuff, and the price when people that came out, people are like, oh my god, I'm not paying that much for a Kickstarter. But when you break out everything you get in it and everything what it's costing to make all of this stuff, you're getting more than your money's worth for it. And the whole thing with the piggybacking and they're selling stuff at the conventions ahead of time is to try to make up enough money to be able to make the rest of it. Regardless of the fact that some of the stuff isn't even finished as far as artwork and other stuff to it. They are gonna, if they're lucky, they'll break even on Shadows of Brimstone, and that's including all retail sales and everything. If they're lucky, they'll break even.
Well, that stinks because I mean, honestly, I mean they do make good stuff. I mean, it would suck if Flying Frog ended up, you know, I don't know, I mean, taking a hit, you know, because of it. Because I mean, you know, and man, that makes a lot of sense actually. Because normally, I remember Flying Frog having a huge presence at Gen Con, like a huge area, lots of people in costumes, lots of demos going on, and they had a much smaller footprint, if I remember correctly.
No, see, actually, because last year they had the same thing. They used to have a very small retail booth, and then a large area where all of the hoopla was going on. They've since switched that around. The demo area for them is actually smaller than it used to be, and the retail area for them is probably 2 or 3 times the size that it used to be. Because they used to have the people in the costumes and everything. I remember the first year when the zombie game came out. Last Night on Earth came out. They had people there dressed in the characters from the game, the people who were in the pictures. They did it the next year when Touch of Evil came out. So they used to have a lot of the experience stuff, and they literally had a very small, almost like a table where they were selling the games from. This past year and last year, they had a bigger area because what they also did was they brought in like a couple of professional miniature painters there in the booth who were just the entire weekend were just basically assembling and painting miniatures and answering people's questions about how to paint things. They did classes on, showing that. They had a session where if you bought the game, you went to this session and they had glue and stuff set up to help you assemble all the miniatures and everything.
Yeah, I remember that. They had an entire assembly area with all the like clippers and everything that you needed just to do that.
But their area, like 3 years ago, they had a bigger. It looked like a bigger area, but it was the same thing. And they had like a little square selling area in the middle, and then they had this tables and people playing the games all around. So it looks like a bigger area, but the area they had this year was probably just the same exact size that they've had for the past few years.
It just wasn't as well advertised, I think. It didn't draw your attention like it did.
Yeah, you had to actually go into like a little walled-off area to get to where the retail area was.
This whole thing brings up my new red flag for Kickstarter projects is anything with shipping waves. If it's not all shipping at one time, you are taking your chances, because that's the big thing is people don't realize how much it costs to ship twice in a lot of these projects is what I'm finding. Especially a first-time creator. If you got a first-time creator doing wave 2, wave 3 shipping, he has not calculated the stuff, and he's going to come back and ask for money, or you just won't get your stuff, because I've been seeing that lately. I'm just going through that with another project I backed, and this one was just one project just to deliver dice. It's not John's. And he didn't calculate how much money he was going to get from Kickstarter correctly. He didn't have any margin built into his project. And then when he had costs go up on his cost of goods, when he found out that those costs were just for existing stock, not for if they had to go buy new stock, which they did, he now can't afford to ship, and he had it set in like 8 different waves of shipping based on when you bought. So now it's everything's going to ship in a year from now, unless you pay him extra to ship in January.
So
was this Joel Eddy?
No, it was not Joel Eddy.
Oh, okay. I was sure.
And the guy was nasty to the backers too. I mean, completely unprofessional.
So speaking of shipping, let me ask you guys your opinion about this. So I don't know what you guys know about like the contracts that people like me have with the distributors, but I have to charge MSRP for everything I sell off my website. And so the way that I try to help people out is I offer free shipping in the United States, and then for overseas purchasers, I discount their shipping by what I would pay for an a domestic package. So I give them a subsidy on shipping. So the problem that some people are reporting is when it comes into my country and I look at the price or the value that's stated on the documentation, they get charged their duty on it. So they've got to pay these tariffs, these import taxes on it. And they've asked, well, can you give me, instead of subsidizing shipping, give me a subsidy off the price of the game? So let's say, for example, it's a $50 game, and I give them $10 off, and I've said no. First off, I don't want to piss off anyone who's actually paying the full price to say someone's got a discounted price, but it seems inappropriate. Does anyone have any insight on that?
The Estonian's not with us. He would be the best one to talk about it because he lives that world.
Well, actually, it's funny. I just sent him a game for free so I could legally mark it as a gift, and he asked me to wrap it so that when they opened it, they would see it was a gift.
It was a gift.
Yeah, and so I did. I wrapped it, and they actually opened it.
You have to wrap stuff you're sending as a gift because they will check.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It is crazy. I mean, it's just I mean, I remember I sold I forget what game it was, but I sold a game and like a couple of expansions or whatever to some guy in Portugal. And like he had me do the exact same thing. He said, "Say it's a gift," and he said, "Put like just any wrapping paper around it." And then he says, and that actually it also helps them not to open it and dig through the stuff, And because at that time they said that there was problems with mail fraud where anything that they saw was valuable, they would just say they lost the thing and just keep whatever was inside or whatever. So
I have no problem marking stuff as a gift if it's free. But if it's merchandise, I will mark it as merchandise. I don't feel comfortable saying, look, I'm going to give you $10 off on shipping. That's fine. But for someone to say, let me pay full shipping and give me $10 off, charge this import tax, that doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah, and honestly, it doesn't make sense either, because the import tax is going to be less than the $10 discount that you give them, right? So
not in some of these countries. It can be like 30%.
Yeah.
But if they're asking for more than a 10% mark to discount off of the game, because if you sell a game that's $50 and you mark that it's $40, then it's only a $10 difference of the percentage. I mean, it doesn't make sense. But yeah, as far as internationally goes, I mean, solutions are cropping up all over the place. iDispatcher in France will function as your importer of record in the UK, and they'll do fulfillment roughly the same price as Amazon. Depending on the country, some's more expensive, some's less expensive. It ended up being a net more expensive than our estimates through Amazon in the UK. But Amazon won't function as an importer of record. And when you have somebody function as your importer of record in the UK, you can prepay all of the customs taxes on the manufacturing value. So we shipped our games into France, and we prepaid the VAT, value-added tax, for all of the UK on the manufacturing value of the game, which is obviously it's going to be like a fifth or a sixth or a seventh or whatever the rate is that you end up marking it up to discover your MSRP. So if I ship it from the US, I have to mark it as a $72 game. If I ship it from France, it doesn't matter what it's marked because the tax on it's already been paid, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's been paid on like the $20 manufacturing cost or whatever it was.
Yeah, I typically don't deal with that because I go through the local game stores there, and they pay whatever they pay. I'm just talking about the onesie-twosies off of the web. And they don't want any more off than what I would give them in shipping. They just want it applied to the base value. Because the expansion for Shadows, for instance, I think I declared $25. And I know in the UK, I think the tariff triggers at $21. I'm like, sorry, dude, I can't help you. I want to, but I don't feel right doing it.
Yeah, no, I understand. I had when we were going to get our minis painted from some guy in like Sri Lanka or something like that, he asked me to whatever, man. So he specifically said, would you mark when you ship the package in, will you mark the value as $1 for customs and stuff like that? And it's just I don't know. It's sketchy. It's lying. It's deceitful. It's stealing from some government somewhere. So to not feel right about it is reasonable.
What happens if that package gets lost?
Then you get.
You've claimed it for $1. You get $1 back.
Exactly. Yep.
And I'm actually a little bit more paranoid than that. Is what happens if this customs form shows up and says it's worth $25, and another one shows up and says it's worth $20. I don't have a good enough memory to keep track of that kind of stuff. It seems better to have a clear policy up front and say, if you guys don't want to do this, that's fine. I understand completely. Go buy it somewhere else or go buy a different game.
Yeah.
As a business, I think it's right to do it by the books.
Right.
Yep. You got to do it the right way. I mean, the whole point, the entire concept of incorporating is to indemnify yourself and to protect your personal possessions and your family. So if something goes wrong with your business, they can come after your business, which is only worth so much, and they can't come after your house. So that's why you don't do it as a sole proprietor. That's why you become an LLC. You limit your liability as a corporation. So then to become an LLC and offer the international customs community, multiple governments around the world, an opportunity to shut you down.
Exactly.
I mean, like, no.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly.
Over $17? No. No, I'm sorry. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah. That was my gut. That's how I've been acting. I know there are other people that have different views on it. I was just curious what you guys' thoughts were.
Well, there you go.
And I understand being in those countries. I understand wanting to like skimp on tax. I understand being at a convention and like hoping if I pay cash I won't have to pay tax. And understand things like that happen from time to time on like the low level in-person scale, and you hope for those breaks. I understand that. I think it's very human. I think it's very reasonable. I don't even think it's always wrong. But on the international business customs level, it's just too risky.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm okay eating tax. As long as the tax gets paid, I have no problem with that.
Has anybody played any good games lately?
Nope.
But you're not interested in talking about international taxes and the weights?
I don't know. I'm not a publisher, you know. I mean, I find it interesting, and I do find it, you know, like it's cool that, you know, it you know, whatever, it exists and what have you. But I mean, it's just like I don't have the same platform that you guys do, you know, as far as.
So maybe
Sure.
Lance, I can spin your question a little differently and just ask: has anyone come across any cool new mechanics in a game that they like?
Oh man, it's just so tough to mechanisms. Well, mechanics. I mean, there's a guy down at my local.
God damn it, Lance.
I was a mechanic, Lance. Shut up.
Well, I came across Barry. He's kind of
But
a
he's
cool
cool.
mechanic.
He's a mechanic.
As far as mechanisms go, I don't know. I mean, it's like the game that I've been playing a lot of lately that I'm really enjoying is Blood Rage, and Blood Rage really doesn't have anything other than, you know, I mean, it has card drafting, and then it just becomes a area control / victory point grab. You know, just you have your secret goals or your semi-secret goals of things you have to do to earn points, and then you have these like combats that are fairly deterministic. We have cards that you use to alter them and stuff like that. But there's a game that just has, you know, a really good theme, really cool miniatures, and just nicely made, very very easy flowing a process to it. So I mean, it's just like, I think that's why I like it. You know, and plus, I thought I'd get bored of it because of the fact that after you've played it like 2 or 3 times, you've kind of seen every single card that exists. that's out there. But Keith's leaving. Keith, you're going to bed?
Yes, sir.
You're tired?
Yeah, because I know you're just going to go into how Eric Lang handed that to you personally soon, and I've already heard that.
No. I'm just gonna say that like it's weird. After the exploration of the game, I usually get bored of it because I just don't want to go back to the repetition. And I've said that many times before. It's just like, let me see if I can, improve my way of playing this by X% by like doing it one more time. I don't find that fun. But I found this one fun. I think it's mostly because of the interaction between the players and things like that.
How many players is it for?
It is 4, but with the Kickstarter, it goes up to 5.
It's 4 to 37.
You had to buy an add-on to get it to 5, though.
Yeah, that's
everybody did not get that. So, all right, good night, everybody.
Is that an exclusive add-on, or is that?
No, they're going to release it as well.
Okay.
It was one of those things where you can get it right away.
That's one of the reasons I don't do Kickstarter.
Well, there was one exclusive. There was like a werewolf or something, a monster, that like only Kickstarter backers were going to get.
Fenrir.
Yeah, Fenrir. There you go.
I almost named my dog that.
Oh, well, there you go.
Hey, can I give a piece of advice?
Don't put your hand in the wolf's mouth when they put the ribbon around his.
No, this is a good piece of advice. So it is for people who are going to put a game out on Kickstarter and get prototypes made at GameCrafter to send out to people to review before it goes live. It's a cool thing if you have an extra card to put like your contact information on to have in the box, like when you're printing out, laying out the cards that go in there. If you have an extra card, put your contact information. It's cool. Do not put it on 19 cards in the same box.
Oh, well.
19 copies of this person's contact information.
Can you just show that to us real fast? And we can all tweet.
I'm trying to disguise who it is, but 19 of them.
Wow.
And the funny thing is, it's actually listed on the the component list.
The card is?
Yes.
Hey, at least it wasn't an accident. Maybe he wants you to share it with your buddies.
I thought they were like different. They're 19 exactly the same. It has the email address, the Twitter account. Ridiculous. I didn't throw them out just to share that with everybody. Don't do this.
It's weird. I have a love-hate with GameCrafter boxes that I get. I don't know. I don't mind them. I mean, because obviously I think GameCrafter does a pretty good job as far as with what they do. But I mean, I don't know. I just think, and this is, and let's be completely honest as far as, I don't know how to. I can't put a game together. I'm not. That isn't my thing. But I mean, sometimes when I get a game from a Kickstarter game from somebody that like they've put their like life and blood into the prototype and it's like really good, I can't help but be impressed, and just kind of appreciate the amount of effort that they're putting into it. But maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
I actually like to build my own prototypes because I learn a lot more about what I'm trying to do and think about by actually cutting the paper and painting the wood.
I also like saving hours and hours and hours of time not trying to match my stuff to GameCrafter's formatting.
Oh, is that difficult to like do the stuff that you need?
In my experience, and it might just be limited. I don't know. I'm only one guy, and I've only tried it twice. But it's very difficult. The templates strike me compared to what I'm doing for my actual manufacturers and stuff. The templates seem very odd dimensions. So unless I make a crappy version of it with like excessive black border on cards or things like that, some of the template dimensions just struck me as very like odd millimeter dimension shape or whatever, particularly long cards or something like that. But again, that might have just been my experience, and I guess once you get used to it, it might not be that big of a deal. But for me, it was too much to get into.
Wait, the other thing I've had talking to people is they have very weird counts for like cards.
It's not 54 to a sheet.
It's like because they, if you're doing a card game, they have the tuck box and they have the two-piece box, and they base the number of cards you can put in the game based on what fits in the box. But the card box is not 54 cards. It's like a really weird thing. I don't know what it's not based on like when you print that a manufacturer, they have X number of cards on a standard size card sheet. So 110, right?
Weird question. Does GameCrafter have a thicker box, or do they always send those skinny ones?
No, they have more than one size.
Well, because it seems to me. Maybe it's just because of cost. Whenever I get a GameCrafter game, it's always the skinny, like inch tall box, and not
the square one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they make one that is rectangular also. That's probably about the size of like Pandemic, maybe a little bit thicker, a little bit deeper.
Hey, in completely nothing to do with what we're talking about conversation.
Oh yeah, of course
No,
not.
and this is just me giving. This is just gonna be me giving Anthony the business a little bit here. So if we could somehow teleport back into time.
All right, good night, everybody. Yes, we're in last place, Lance. Good.
Okay. Well, I was just gonna say that Miguel Sano hit a pinch hit home run, so the Twins won again today. I don't know. Just I remember being barked at just a bit by Anthony about his Detroit Tigers. So, how are they doing?
We're in last place.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, not truly last place. The Oakland Athletics have a worse record than you do.
Oh, we're in last place in the Central.
Yes, you are. All right then. I'm glad we could have that conversation.
There you go. I'm not getting any more money.
Oh, I wish I'd gotten your double or nothing out of you.
Sure.
No, so I don't know. I think we've covered a ton of ground tonight. Just all over.
Seth came in on a good question. I think he has an answer.
Okay.
When Jim asked about cool mechanics.
Yeah. What's
games?
a cool mechanism in
Mechanic.
Mechanism.
Mechanic.
My mechanic's really cool. He fixed my head gasket for free.
Yeah, I bet he did.
So,
Now the head gasket is a mechanism.
technically mechanism is correct, not mechanic, but then again it's jargon, so mechanic can be correct. Anyway.
My
Also,
mechanic was correct. It was the head gasket that was wrong.
The moment we start allowing anything to be said, that's when anarchy sets in. So, let's just concentrate on doing it correct,
You mean correctly?
Oh shoot, that just happened.
Oh.
I'm just waiting for someone to say less when they mean fewer.
So,
I'm waiting for Anthony to play some sort of sound effect at that moment.
I was waiting for Lance to mute Seth. And
well, I already done. Hey, actually, here's something new we could try. We usually do the Barry 10, but Barry's gone. So can we do like the Pacino 10?
No, I don't. I can't do Pacino. My wife's gonna get up and yell at me.
Okay, well, can you do Travolta 10?
All right, I'll do the Travolta 10.
So you can ask. Okay, so for the next 10 minutes, Anthony is going to ask the questions, and it'll be a la Travolta, and anything goes. So go ahead.
All right, so Seth, let me ask you something. What do you think of my hair? I spend a lot of time on my hair, and it's Lance crying.
I can't believe it took me this long to come up with this idea. Go.
Wait, do you want me to just do the Barry 10 for Barry?
Well, that's.
Hang on.
That would be very nice.
Can you do Barry's voice?
So you guys, what were you thinking when you did the? I need a big thing to drink out of and a vape.
Yeah, and you need your vape. Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Fuck you, Anthony.
I got busted.
I was listening. I had to put a patch on. I'm sure you guys don't want to see my fat ass when I'm putting a patch on my back.
I was
I
just
was
gonna say,
listening.
did you have to put it on your butt? But apparently you did. Nice.
All right, Barry.
This is the
Barry
best
10.
Alaboom in at least a week.
You're welcome.
No, we haven't had a. Oh, I get it. All right, Barry. Seriously though, let's do the Barry 10. So Barry, go.
All right, I got two questions. First one, I went on vacation a couple weeks ago, and I'm curious how you guys pack your games when going away. Like I was dumping 2 and 3 games in a box and took a tote. So I'm curious how you guys do it.
The only time I ever really take any number of games with me is when I go to Con of the North. If any of you live near the Twin Cities, or even if you don't live near the Twin Cities, in February they have an excellent gaming convention the last 3 days. I run the board game room, and one of the things I do is I bring I always bring way more games than I need to, because you only really need to bring maybe a dozen, but I always end up bringing like 30 games with me. But I bring a dolly that has a strap on it, so I can and then I have 3 tubs, and then the strap goes around the 3 tubs, and then I attach it so they can't fall off. And I throw those in the back of my my SUV and bring them with, and that seems to work the best. You learn to be really good at Tetris. When you put the games in those giant 30-gallon tubs to the rubber band, 4-band rubber bands, if you know what I'm talking about, the things that people put around puzzles to keep the puzzle boxes closed, that work great for game boxes. I know a lot of people say, oh, I don't want the rubber to hurt the game box. Well, I only use those for when I bring games to the convention, because they rattle around inside the tubs and what have you. Or if you have a stack of your games, you don't want somebody going over there and digging through them or anything like that. So I put one of those in each one of the boxes, put that in the tub, and then I bring the dolly with me, and then I can get in and out of the hotel pretty easily.
You keep the games in the original boxes?
I do. I'm one of the weird people that if the expansion, if the stuff for the expansion fits in the game box, I'll in the box, I will do that. But I hold on to the expansion box. I can't throw it away. I don't know why.
I'm the same way. It's like a trophy piece. It's proof that I own this. I do the same thing with video games that I've beaten. If I've played a video game, I have not gotten rid of it. So I have a crap ton of original Nintendo games that I never play because they're my trophies.
So Barry, I sent a prototype out to someone to play test, and they sent it back to me with the pieces in this little plastic sewing kit. I guess you could buy these sewing kits in various sizes that you can make compartments in. It was really, really beautiful.
Like a Plano box, or is it different than that?
No, it's different. They come in all different sizes. It almost looks like a one-level tackle box.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
I'd never seen that before, and to see it come back that way, I was really impressed.
The next time anybody is at an IKEA, when you're leaving, or at least the one IKEA that I go to in the Twin Cities, they always have these. They have in the kids section, they have these kids plates and kids bowls and kids utensils, and they come in all these bright colors. But they have these bowls And what's sad is they used to have like a smaller bowl. It was like about this big, and now it's like a bigger, more like a circle, like a classic bowl. But they're still not super huge. They're kid sized, and they come in multiple colors, and they're all really bright. You can buy like a 6-pack of those bowls for like, I think it's like $2.99 or even less. And those are some of the absolute. Everybody should have a package of those. It's for so when you get ready to play whatever board game with 1,000 pieces in it, like you just want to like pour all of like the cubes into one of those, or all of the cardboard chits that represent food, you know, for whatever Euro that you're playing, and then so you don't have them like in a loose scattering of a pile like by the table. So next time you're at IKEA, get those.
Yeah, you don't need that. No, you don't need that. I'll show you what you need. Hold on a second.
Oh, what? You need
Talk
the
amongst
puppet?
yourselves.
I use two things. I have these stackable bead containers that I got. I use them, and then also like 4-inch mechanics use them. They're called parts trays, magnetic part trays, like 4-inch ones. I use them a lot. You know, you get them pretty cheap at like Harbor Freight. But all right, John, how do you pack your games?
Wait! I want to see what Anthony's massive explanation is going to be. He's going to like show me.
Okay, this is the thing you get. Forget those stupid things, those bowls.
Oh, whatever. You haven't seen how awesome they work, so don't even tell me.
This is what you need.
Did you just outright cut me off, man? What the heck?
He did.
Yeah,
I know exactly what those are, and I don't like those because they tip over too easy.
No, you have no idea.
Things?
No, they're from the dollar store, Dollar Tree, and you store your pieces in the individual little things, and then when you play the game, you just pop the tops off and put them where they go on the table.
I understand that, but those things they're too tall, and so somebody
not.
yes, whatever. When somebody reaches in to grab the stuff out, they tip over, and then you spill them all over the place.
Not within the no. You played a bunch of Neanderthals because it doesn't happen.
Fine. Then maybe I play with the Neanderthals, and I have to have the paraphernalia that I use. Plus, I hate putting that stuff in the game boxes. Ziploc bags. The only thing you should have in the game box to separate the stuff, unless it's like a really massive thematic game and you need a Plano box in there.
No, because I'm set up in 30 seconds. You're taking stuff out of bags, and then you have to repack it in bags. Mine, you play out of the things, you put the lid back on when you're done. You're done. That's it.
Yeah, and it spills all over the place, and whatever.
And if you want bowls, if at the dollar store, you can get these little ramekins in different colors. 2 for $1.
Those aren't nearly big enough.
They're not nearly big enough. What the hell game are you playing that you need a bigger bowl than this?
I'm not going to argue with you. You're just wrong. Don't worry about
it. Go ahead, John.
John, what were you going to say? Like 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, simplest answer ever. I just jam it in my luggage. I just don't even care. Like, I keep games forever, but if I'm going to travel with, like, I have no joke, I have a game of Pictionary, which is straight up one of my favorite games of all time, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, in the trunk of my car that's been taped and retaped and retaped. Everything inside still is in decent condition, but yeah, I don't really care what ends up happening to the boxes too much if I have to travel with them. I just jam them. I chuck them in my luggage. I'll throw them in my backpack. Maybe I'm a bad gamer or a Neanderthal, but yeah, simple. Yeah, I'll put like a sweat if I'm traveling somewhere cold. I'll wrap a sweater around it or something like that. But chuck it in the bag.
Barry, did you drive or did you fly?
I drove.
Oh,
I drove.
Driving is easy. You just put them in tote bags. Supermarket canvas bags.
I have a couple of them blue IKEA bags, but when I drove down, I used one of the Rubbermaid totes, which wasn't ideal because the size like curve in. I gotta find one that's straight, but I wanted something I could stack on top of, But yeah. All right. Anybody else? No. Yes. Maybe.
Well, the big thing is that I've heard of like how do you get games home from Essen? I mean, that's like the big thing. Like if you're gonna go to Europe, how do you get your games home?
Throw it in the bag. Just throw it in the bag.
And I've heard. I remember Scott Nicholson did a really good video where basically like he had like giant gallon-sized Ziploc bags, and then what he did was he took all the components out and like put them in smaller ones, and then put all of them for like in like small Ziploc bags in the big Ziploc bag, and so he had that, and then he actually shipped his clothes home because they weigh less, and it actually saved him money that way. And then he would put boxes within boxes into his luggage. So and then that was and so you could actually have enough room to get all the boxes home as well. Because I guess shipping stuff home from Essen is just a nightmare.
One of the best solutions I've seen for that is I know people who carry a collapsible suitcase in their suitcase. And then what they'll do is they'll use a collapsible suitcase on the way back for their clothes and put the games in the suitcase. They come back with an extra suitcase.
That makes sense, but games weigh a ton. Yeah. And airlines are they won't. I mean, if your luggage weighs a little bit more than it should, I mean, they'll hammer you on the price, or they just won't let you bring it with. I felt pretty smart about this, and this is horrible actually, because not this last Gen Con, because I shipped everything home pretty much this last Gen Con, but the Gen Con before, I tried to I brought a lot of stuff home. I basically brought a piece of luggage with me and paid the $50, but I pretty much had nothing in it. And then I loaded that piece of luggage up with games that I wanted to bring home and that I wanted to get home immediately instead of waiting whatever it was 5-6 days. And I knew it weighed too much, but I kept the counter lady talking airline, and then when I put my my luggage up on their little weight scale thing, I put one of the wheels off of the scale on the thing so it would weigh less, and I kept her talking the entire time and interacted with her. It was early in the morning too, and so then she just didn't charge me any extra for it, and she put it over because she didn't realize it. And then when I got the thing, when I landed and I got the thing, it had all these stickers. It's that said heavy, do lift with your legs, not with your back kind of thing. I felt kind of bad that I scammed but then I realized it was U.S. Airways and they sucked. So.
Hey, my solution there is the carry-on. The bag I usually chuck it in is the carry-on, so this way I'm controlling it and nobody's throwing stuff on top of my luggage in miscellaneous hurl. And then there's weight limits on the carry-ons, but they never check them ever.
Well, yeah, but you can't. When you have a carry-on, you can maybe put 2 games in there, maybe.
No, man, no. The size of carry-ons is nearly full on luggage.
No, it isn't. Not compared to what you can check.
Oh, I mean, you can check those mega motherload ones, but we don't ever use them. I use a big, 2.5, 3 foot tall by 1 foot by 1 foot. I can fit at least 8 games in there if I wanted to. I've never brought 8 games, but then the games will fit in the overhead. You can bring it. If you're rolling home around the airport, that's the only problem.
So this is really an intriguing conversation for a different reason for me. So this was the first year at Gen Con where my product had already been on the market. So what I found several people doing was coming to my booth, getting a demo, then buying it on Amazon and having it shipped home. So they never had to worry about it. They bought a few games, they got free shipping, and it was off. So by the time they got home, they had all their product. They didn't have to carry anything.
Buy solutions. I just don't buy things. It's way easier to carry things. You don't buy them.
But what do you do if Eric Lang hands you a copy of his latest game?
Oh, jeez. Enough.
So, Lance,
what if Eric Lang...
So Lance, still has 9 more questions.
Yeah. So, Lance, was it cheaper to ship it or to put it on the airplane?
Oh, definitely. When I scanned the airline, it was cheaper. But
Well, even if like you paid what you should have, would have been cheaper.
well, here's the deal. I say this as nicely as possible. With UPS not showing up and having their little stall or whatever at Gen Con, they cost a lot of people a lot of money in that situation because of the fact that it was I mean, like the UPS like when they'd set up in that hallway. I mean, it wasn't cheap, but it wasn't stupidly expensive either. I mean, they were pretty good about it. I mean, you could ship like a giant box of games home for right around like $60-$70. You know, when I had to use like the little like office or whatever that the Gen Con has, like their little shipping office, when I had to go and use that, I mean, I ended up spending over $200 like shipping my stuff. So I mean, it was
through Fern, and Fern's ridiculous, man. The company that manages all of the convention setup and stuff. We wanted an extra table. The convention tables are skinny convention tables, and King's Armory's 3 foot across. So we needed to upgrade to like a wider table. They would do absolutely nothing to work with us on it, and then the only thing that they would do would be to replace. They would bring. I could rent the proper size table if I wanted to, completely separately and independently of the other package, and it was like $120. I went online and I bought a table for $90, and then on my way out of the con, I sold it to Ninja Division for $40. So I rented a table for $50 for the weekend, and had I thrown it out, I still would save money. So that shipping company's Fern, man, they take everybody for everything they can. It's like $40 to change the color of your backdrop, hanging like the white fabric that hangs in the back. If you want to change it to like your company color, it's like $45 for the weekend. It's ridiculous.
Get yourself a set of tablecloths.
Huh?
Get yourself a set of tablecloths, put some grommets in them, and just hang them up.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's like $9.
Yeah. So, Lance, I'm sorry you had to deal with that. That sucks.
Well, no, I mean, it's just whatever it was. I mean, it's just it was. It just, I mean, it was like, you know, I remember asking. I mean, we're kind of retreading over old ground now, so I apologize for that. But if you listened to this before, but I mean, you know, when I'd ask, I pointedly asked the people at Gen Con, I would say to them, you know, why isn't UPS here? And they are all like, well, I don't know, it just seems like they didn't want to come back. And I was like, no, that's BS, because it was free money. I mean, for UPS. I mean, unless like having somebody going and sitting there in the hallway, you know, paying their wage was just ridiculous, or logistically it just was just super difficult, or if they had all these kinds of problems. I can't imagine it being difficult. I mean, you go there.
Why they weren't back? You know why they weren't back?
I thought it was because I mean I have no idea, but my personal theory is that the convention center said no, we want the money for shipping.
No, they didn't have 30 priority points.
Oh, nice. Here I thought you had something like poignant and like some breaking news, but no, you were just going for the fun.
But I will tell you, for the future, there's a U.S. Post Office, a really big one, like 2 blocks south of the convention center.
There is also a FedEx office in the JW Marriott that's cheaper.
Yep, that's right.
Yep. But getting it over there was not an option. I mean, it was just I had too much stuff.
And there's a UPS store 2 blocks away also.
Sounds like something that could be a cottage industry for an enterprising young college student, though, being a runner.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Like I along with a lot of people, I mean, things are going to have to fall into place perfectly for me to go back to Gen Con next year. I mean, it was a lot of fun, and it had nothing to do with my enjoyment, and I enjoyed being there. But man, I mean, it's just like you think of the amount of money you spend and everything else, and it's just like, and the fact that the housing situation is completely effed up, and it's. Yeah. I'll go to Origins, I think, instead.
Lance, on a really, really good note of Gen Con, My wife's been telling me for hours since we chatted earlier, and then keeps shouting it from off camera, that she really, really, really was upset that she missed you at Gen Con. She was really looking forward to seeing you. And she,
Well, I'm sorry I missed your lovely wife as well, but she was busy taking care of your offspring, so it's completely understandable.
yeah, it was pretty awesome. Yeah, so she sends her love now.
Aw, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
So,
I don't
Lance, if you're not going next year, who is Eric Lang going to hand over?
I don't know. I guess.
How long does it take you to grow a longer beard, Anthony?
I couldn't pass for Lance.
Wait, Lance, are you not going to Gen Con next year?
I'm not that big of a jerk. Nope.
It is one of those things where I want to go. I want to go, but it was like after all was said and done, for me and my wife to go there and eat and do all the things we had. I mean, it was a couple grand. I mean, it's just like, and I could have paid for a couple months of mortgage with that, or and just like I don't know. It's
Is this a new thing? I think Joel Eddy said the same thing. He was like, "Yeah, I like Gen Con, but it's not worth it." Is this a new thing? All the internet personalities in the game industry are going to stop going to Gen Con?
Well, I think there's still plenty that'll go. I mean, it's just it's one of those things where I don't know. I think it's just going to be one of those things where it's kind of gotten too big for its own setting, if you will. And I don't think there's any good way to solve it either. I mean, it's just too many people. It's the housing thing is just garbage. It is absolutely garbage. And I don't know how they're going to fix it, because they just don't have enough space. They don't have enough hotel space to figure it out. I mean, you can try to play the game and like get a reservation now, but you just end up paying an extra between $80 to $150 more a night just for the privilege of having a hotel that's close. I was in the pavilion or whatever, the Crown Union Station, which and I had a 5-minute walk, didn't even have to step outside. And I was able to get into Gen Con, and it was awesome. I mean, it was great. And if I get that hotel room again, I'll go back in a heartbeat. And it's sad that it comes down to where I end up staying, but that's literally what it would be for me. I'm not gonna be like where you were, Seth. Didn't you have to drive in from 20 minutes away or something like that?
Yeah.
And it's just, how lame is that? Seriously.
Pretty lame. Well, so that's actually, I think I agree with you. I think it feels like Gen Con's kind of too big for its own good. All right, I don't know if it's outgrown the venue or just outgrown just the usefulness of a convention. I think conventions, when they're that big, there's just that many people, it's not that useful. I don't know if there's anything they can do about it, but what about this? What if instead of having one big Gen Con convention, what if over Gen Con weekend there were 3 across, one on the West Coast, one on the East Coast, and one in the center somewhere of the country, so everyone could go to Gen Con, but have them be each one be 20,000 people instead of
because the publishers can't go to all 3.
Yeah, exactly. They're there. That's the whole reason. I mean, people. I mean,
That's
I don't know.
Force Friday all over again.
Well, here's the question: why do people go to Gen Con? I mean, we're a fairly small sample size, so I mean, the reason we go to Gen Con is to see the new releases, see basically our old friends. I mean, see the media people that we're friends with, interact with the public a little bit. We had our event that we did, which was cool. But why do the vast majority of people go to Gen Con? I think the vast majority of people at Gen Con actually go there to play games, and actually go there because I mean, they're just full of events and things to do, and they go and they do those things. There is a whole world of Gen Con that I don't even know exists, because I don't go there to play games. I go there because it's part of being part of the whole weird media thing that we do. Yeah, I don't go to the dance parties. I don't go to the seminars on how to be a better dungeon master. I don't, and it's just, and those things are probably amazing and super fun, but I don't see that side of it. I don't know. I just I don't know. It's weird. I mean, it's just like and I think for the vast majority of people that are going there for the reason to do those other things, to play games, to check things out, to bebop through the dealer hall and pick up a game or two. That's all there is. But for like us that are trying to get that one game so we can get a video review done quick or whatever, and to talk to a few designers about their upcoming games and get the scoop. I don't know. It seems like ours is such a weird niche and such a weird small percentage that it's just is it worth it for us to pay that amount of money to go there anymore? It's weird that oh, John, you're taking off?
Yeah, going. It's almost 10 o'clock here, and I gotta get up at like 7:30 in the morning.
All right. Well, you take care of yourself, my friend.
Thanks. Good night, everybody. It was cool hanging out. Good
Later, John.
See you, John.
Good night, John.
Right. Peace.
Well,
no, I mean, well, you've never been to Gen Con, but I mean, like, this was my fourth or fifth year of going straight to Gen Con, and it's like it's already vastly different than the first year I went. I mean, it's just
this year was even much different than last year. This year, people seemed very frenetic, very rude. There was, at least in the vendor hall, they set up the booth structures and the placement of the big names to cause train wrecks, basically. So it just seemed like a much less welcoming and friendly Gen Con than it did last year.
yeah, I'd never been to a Gen, just for the size of it. I don't think I'd be comfortable in 70,000 people, or 60,000 people, whatever it is.
It'll be 70 next year.
Yeah, and then like Lance said, the cost. I went to Origins and I was like 20 minutes out, and that was a nightmare. And I could imagine what Gen Con would be if you were 20 minutes out from the convention hall.
Well, you said rude, and how would you say it was rude? I mean, it was just like generic people, or I mean, I know you were kind of back in like the entrepreneurs area, is what they call it, or whatever it is.
Yeah, that was a couple rows behind us, but we were out we call it Hinterland. It was close to a bathroom, so
yeah.
So we did get traffic. We got the bathroom crowd. No, there was a lot of people, I think, who were so determined to get to where they needed to be. They just had they didn't care about their surroundings. Like last year, you'd say to someone, "Hey, cool costume." They'd stop and they'd say, "Oh, thanks." This year was like you'd have to practically tap them on the shoulder to get them to stop and talk to you. I just got this sense that it was much more busyness and less enjoyment.
I think, and this is, I think, as with anything that's successful, there's money to be made, and so, and when there's money to be made, then the attitude and the mentality for it isn't about having fun anymore. It's about how am I going to use this to further my financial goal or whatever, which is fine. I mean, and it's capitalism at its finest, and I'm a big strong believer in that. And but I can then also take a look at that and say I don't want to be a part of that anymore, and I'm going to remove myself from it. Because I'll spend a third of the money and I'll go to Origins, which will have all my friends that I want to meet up with, all the publishers that I want to meet up with, and I'll get to meet them and do that there, and the same kind of thing. And then I can go to BGG Con, I can do the same thing, and actually I'll spend less money by doing that. So
Lance, it's interesting because my sense was the beginning of Gen Con this year was like a race. People were racing to get the new releases that they wanted to get, and after they acquired them, or they were no longer available, they didn't know what to do with themselves for a while.
I can buy into that. And it's just, and there was a lot of anger as well over the new releases, over that process. I mean, there was a lot of people that were like, I firmly believe this, and I think next year at Gen Con there is going to be a huge crackdown on people if you have an exhibitor badge, like being able to people having exhibitor badges buying stuff before the normal crowd's allowed in, because there was a huge amount of anger over that. People like sitting outside, waiting in line, wanting to get in, and trying to get whatever game. Like they wanted to get one of the 50 copies of Mysterium that were going to be sold that day, and the doors would open, they'd come racing in, and there was already a line of 75 people waiting there. The people had exhibitor badges that had gotten in an hour before the thing, and they were standing in line. And these people like, I've been sitting outside. I got up 3 hours early. I was first person in line. I've been standing here waiting. I ran here. This was where I went the moment the doors opened. And you're telling me that it's already sold because somebody was here with an exhibitor badge, because that's supposed to be at their booth, trying to hawk their goods or sell their stuff, but instead they're here, buying the game. So.
Oh, is it the exhibitor's fault, or I mean the person doing the?
Well, the idea is that you're not supposed to. If you're an exhibitor, it's one of those things where it's just kind of understood that you're not supposed to, be doing that. And
why don't publishers just bring more games? I mean, you hear it every year. Why is there only 50 releases of a game? I mean, some like Portal, I understand they're overseas and all, but for an American publisher, why are they only taking a couple hundred games if they know it's going to blow up there?
Well, I mean, that's just a lot of times that you just can't get the game done, and can't get it there. I mean, it's one of those things where they would love to have 1,000 copies of the game there because they know they're going to sell it.
Lance.
What?
Lance. So
What?
on the same point, then the people who get in early with the press badge should not be going and buying games either in that first hour.
One of the things, if I remember correctly, one of the things is that the press badge is that you're not supposed to buy anything. Like they're not supposed to sell to people with the press badge.
And they still do.
Well, because they don't care. They want your money.
Right, and that's my point. Because the thing is that a good majority of the people who get the press badge go in and buy games in that first hour on Thursday morning.
Oh,
They're not there to cover it. They're there to get in line.
Right. 4 or 5 years ago, at my first year at Gen Con, Joel and I got up at 4 o'clock. Joel Eddy got up. Where's my gong?
He's not important enough to.
Oh, Joel Eddy, a drive-through review. We got up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, grabbed a breakfast bagel somewhere, and went and stood in line. And we were still like number 3 and number 4 to get our press badge to make sure that we got the extra badge to let us get in an hour early. And during that hour, Joel and I said, I want to copy this, I want to copy this. We talked about exactly what we wanted. And I went up and I had the 6 things that I bought 2 copies for each one, and he had the 6 things or whatever that he bought 2 copies for that we both wanted. And then after that hour, we met up, we exchanged, and then we just went our merry way. We didn't use it to interview anybody or talk to anybody. I mean, who's going to get who? What possible interview are you going to do in that first hour before anybody else gets in there?
So, I mean, what's the difference between that and someone with an exhibitor badge going and buying something?
Personally, I don't think there is one, but it was like it's one of those things where it's there's going to be backlash. I mean, I mean, or maybe they won't care. Maybe they won't care at all. But I mean, there was a lot. If you walked around to those people, just like that had waited in line and had done their thing, there was a huge amount of anger over it. I mean, and sure, it's like a small percentage. I mean, like, you think Gen Con cares about this less than 1% of people that are going to be angry over the fact that they didn't get their game they wanted? Screw you. You're going to come back next year anyway, because it's that successful. But it's, I don't know. Gen Con, I think Gen Con needs to. It's one of those things, to compare. It's like saying I really don't like the way the NFL is run right now. Well, yeah, but it makes billions upon billions of dollars. They're not going to change a damn thing. And the thing is that it's one of those things where Gen Con is making money right now. And I don't know how much money they're making, but they're obviously very successful. The only thing that's going to matter to them is if they actually start taking it in the wallet. And then they're going to say, "Oh, we need to kind of address this," or if some long-term prognosticator looks at it and goes, "Okay, if this continues in 2.5 years, you're really going to see it on the back end. You're not going to be making as much money as you possibly could. Okay, let's address it in a year then, and then we can say we're being proactive." It's one of those things, because everybody's got a consultant that looks at it. Brandon Kemp in the comments just actually said something that Gen Con won't care until the VIGers get upset and then can't get their stuff. I would say that he has a point, but I also would say that, like, those VIG badges, they sell out in like 10 minutes, and it's like, isn't it like $500 or something like that?
Yep.
It's just ridiculous. So it's $500, and the one thing that's good about it, well, two things: you get in early. You have access to that little lounge or whatever that has bean bags and places you can relax and sleep and whatever. And the other thing is guaranteed close housing. That's
yeah. They also get free games, because I think Calliope actually sponsored the lounge this year, so they paid for like the snacks and drinks they have. But they actually, I don't know what that worked this year, but I know a couple of years ago when I was working with AEG, we sent a whole pallet of games over to the VIG lounge that AEG donated to the VIG lounge, and everyone who had a VIG badge got a copy of this game. I don't remember which game it was at the time, but everyone got a copy of the game, and other people had them too. So it's not, you get stuff for it, but again, it doesn't mean you are guaranteed to get this game. That's in limited supply on that day.
Well, no, but yeah,
I didn't even get in a full hour early anyway.
Well, true, but I mean, one of the things about VIG badge, which I'd actually even consider, is the fact that you get, from what I understand, and Keith's not here to back me up because he actually looked into it, but you get like front of the line housing. Like, you get, okay, where do you want it, basically? Where do you want to stay?
They basically have a separate book of rooms already set aside for the VIGs people, and say, okay, these are the rooms that are available at the downtown hotels. What do you need? Do you need you need a king bed? You need 2 queen beds. And they have all the hotels that are all connected to the thing. They have a special block of rooms at each of those hotels for the VIG people, and it's more rooms than they need. They can't obviously hold 500 rooms if everyone wanted to stay at the same hotel, but they have a downtown block of all attached hotels of rooms where they get to pick from first.
Okay. Now, what do you see as the breaking point for Origins? When do you see it starting to decline?
Origins or Gen Con?
I'm sorry, Gen Con.
I don't know. I think it's when they start getting closer to 2020 and they start looking at their lease, being up, and they're able to bring a bargaining chip to the table and start saying, well, this is what we'll bring your city if you have our convention. This is what we'll be able to deliver to you. So what are you going to do for us? And I guess you'd like to think that Gen Con will have the mentality of like we need to treat our gamers well. We need to treat these people that come to it because the ones that make our convention awesome. And I think they will have that attitude. But part of me also says that it is becoming just it's cash in right now. A buddy of mine who's a lawyer down in Florida, and he's a real good guy and smart and makes a lot of money. He said, I got to cash in. I got to start making my money like in the next I only got about a year and a half left to make good money. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I really don't think we're going to elect another Democratic president. And I was just kind of like, and like he literally like the type of it wasn't like criminal law. It was like it's more a finance lawyer and things like that. And it's just like, and he's like, I have a very limited window to make my fortune. And so I need to work like crazy over the next couple of years because to optimize my earning. And I think in a weird way that's kind of like the same thing that that Gen Con is got to look at it. I mean, eventually we're gonna have a downswing again. As far as right now, interest in tabletop gaming, whether it be it RPGs or board games or whatever, it's climbing and climbing and climbing. And as with any bubble, it eventually bursts. And I don't think it's gonna be like a burst and then we're gonna go down to the doldrums. So we're gonna peak and then it's gonna start edging its way down again, just like happens to everything. 5 years ago, one of the biggest growing types of companies that were being opened in America were tattoo parlors. It was like one of the fastest growing routes for people to like open a small business, but about 2 years ago it reached its peak, and now it's heading down again. And I only know that because a buddy of mine runs several tattoo parlors across the United States. He has like 4 or 5, and it's but it's like one of those things where eventually we'll start heading down again. And when that happens, Gen Con, if the people that run Gen Con don't do it because they love games, they do it because they're making money, and we have to realize that and recognize that. And yes, I'm sure they love the fact that they host the convention. I'm sure they love the fact that they provide this level of entertainment and whatever to all these thousands of people that come from all over the world to do it. But I'm sure their marketing and their consulting and everything is saying it's like we need right now is the salad days or whatever. This is the golden time to line your wallets. And so I realize I'm probably sounding very cynical, but for somebody who just proclaimed that I respect capitalism, but it is kind of one of those things where it's like a little bit of the fun is disappearing. I don't know. Anthony, did you have fun at Gen Con this year?
I had fun at Gen Con because I didn't stress myself with trying to quote unquote work while I was there.
Yeah.
In years past, I have been really stressed at Gen Con, and had fun too, but it wasn't quite the same. I took Matt last year from my show, and I put him to work, and he had a horrible time. And I got him to come back this year, and basically said, "Hey, we have these couple things that we, told Portal we would do and help them out with stuff. But other than that, just do whatever you want." And him and Paul had a fantastic time. I had a great time too. I enjoyed the seeing the friends I don't get to see all the time kind of things. Seeing some new games is always cool. Talking to publisher people that I know, I enjoy that too. But I don't look at Gen Con the way that regular everyday gamers do. So it's a totally different thing that when I go, I'm looking for. I'm looking to see people I don't get to see. Some people I don't get to talk to for literally 5 minutes, and it's like, hey, I got to see so and so. We talked for 5 minutes. I asked how his kids were. He asked how my kids were, and that was it. So it's one of those things. It's what it means to you. I'm sure Seth's experience at Gen Con and what a good Gen Con, not even business-wise, is for him. It's a different thing for different people. And it's never going to be what my first Gen Con was, or even what my second Gen Con was. So, as long as you get out of it what you're looking for, then it's something to to keep going back to. But again, we would hit that point where it's like, if we another couple of Gen Cons where nothing new is coming out, then really I don't care about going anyway either. I can go to something else. I can stay home.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I mean, it's one of those things where I respect like people like Joel, Eddie, and Bauer's Game Corner. And the people that like go there and do like, oh, I'm going to do 120 videos of all these different things, and I'm just like. I did like I said, every year I say I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that this year. Like I had this plan this year. I was like, I'm gonna go there, and every time I play a game, I'm gonna get my camera out, and then I'm gonna have the people that played the game with me just talk about the game quick, and I'll post those. And because I do that when I go to Con of the North, just like do a quick little post game conversation, and because they're fun, they're quick, they take like 2 minutes, and I did like 2 or 3 of them, and I was like, I hate doing this. I just I was like, it's weird. It was like a Gen Con. It felt like I was just, I don't know, being some, I don't know. That's for a different mentality of person. For Gen Con, for me, especially with my wife there, it was just kind of like, it was just fun just to wander around and have fun. And I actually, the most fun I had was after the dealer hall closed, and like going to dinners and stuff with people. I mean, like heading over to that one bar, the Yard House, with like Bonacore, and hanging out with him like all night long, and just and doing that stuff. That was more fun than anything. When I finally got Mendez to go out, and I got him to show up. Seth, I wish he had been there to like see Michael like reacting to being at the weird top floor penthouse like party or whatever at the one hotel, like just having him like, and I know that's just totally not his scene, so seeing him there, like, anyway, and then he managed to find like the 2 or 3 like board game publisher people that just wanted to talk shop for like an hour, so he eventually like felt really good and really, and he liked being there. But I mean, it was interesting to do that stuff. So I don't know, it was fun. I'm glad I went. It's one of those things where it's a lot of money. And it's a lot of time, and it's crazy. So,
well, I'm sure they're going to have to cap it eventually with just the people. The fire marshal's going to say, enough's enough eventually.
The fire marshal.
Yeah, I mean, you can only have so many people in one building. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're way below capacity for what their building holds.
Oh, are they? No, that ain't good then.
That building holds 125,000 people under the fire code.
Really? I didn't think it was that big.
People like sitting for seminars, not sitting at tables.
Yeah. It doesn't specify. It says 125,000 people. That's how you get around.
No shit, thing. But look at the way it's going to be used. It doesn't specify. If you pack, certainly a different number if you pack people shoulder to shoulder in that space versus if you spread them out so they can sit at a table and play a game. I guarantee
they're going to lay them on top of each other.
Andy, Anthony, I saw you posted something in the chat a little bit about the zoo party. Did you go to the zoo party?
I did not go to the zoo party. I refused to go to the zoo party because I knew what the zoo party was all about. So, what was the zoo party? What was it for? It's for the same thing that they had thrown on Kickstarter because the actual plan to get people to sign up for membership for Geek Chic XP failed. So, what they got you there for was to show you what the Geek Chic XP was going to be. It was supposed to psych everyone up for joining this and getting a membership. But you're promoting something, let's all get together and hang out at the zoo and play games, and there's no games to play because you didn't tell anyone to bring their own games. Let's go out in the heat and here's a hot dog and a hamburger, and I'll charge you $85 for it. I mean, granted, I'm going to guess 99% of the people who were there actually got comp tickets, but they were charging $85 per ticket to go there, to go to the zoo and eat a hot dog and a hamburger.
I heard they were gourmet hot dog and hamburgers.
Oh yeah, gourmet. Gourmet.
I'm not sure that.
Well, everyone was sweating. I was at the Tilted Kilt, enjoying a nice cold drink and pot pie.
They're at 25,000 on their Kickstarter, which is way better than I thought they would do, in all honesty. So, I'll give them that.
20% of that is from one person.
So they're just shooting for like the higher echelon of board gamers, is what you're saying?
Yeah, basically, when there's, and the thing about it is, if this was all over the place, then maybe it might be worth it if you're someone who travels a lot. Yeah. But literally, there's going to be one set up in Seattle, where they're located, and then the other one's going to be like traveling. So if you go into town for Gen Con, because you don't have enough things to do otherwise, you can go to where they have the fancy Geek Chic XP place and show your fancy membership card, and you can go hang out in there. And then they have people who will bring you food. It's not free food, but they'll bring you food because you have to. This hobby promotes elitism, and that's what it looks like. Because I can afford $500 for a membership for something I'm going to use maybe once or twice a year, and the unwashed can go and play in the streets because I don't care. It's really the most ridiculous thing. The Geek Chic tables are an elaborate expense for people, and if you have that, that's fine. That's great. I don't say people who have one don't look down on people. I know people who have tables who literally, didn't eat lunch for 2 or 3 years at work and took their allowance and put it aside so they could buy a Geek Chic table. Oh, yeah. Fantastic. But this is like this totally ridiculous.
Yeah, I saw something similar at Origins.
So wait, what? One person backed him at $5,000?
$5,000. $5,000.
Wait, I mean, okay, I don't want to turn this into a bashing of this, but this doesn't make any sense to me.
One person back for $5,000.
No, just hold on. So the Geek Chic XP Founding Legacy Member Passport. Holders will have an exclusive color and design to highlight Founding Legacy Member status. These members have permanent recognition as Founding Legacy members. And then includes all the rewards, blah, blah, blah. You will receive a Geek Chic XP Member Passport with no yearly renewal fees, including an extensive list of exclusive benefits. Just $1,000 savings, as the 2016 Legacy membership is $6,000. 3 visitors visas, normally 2, and an exclusive Kickstarter passport stamp. I mean,
it says sucker on it. That stamp.
Jeez. So
one of the funny things
I don't.
I have a sneaking suspicion. I know who that $5,000 backer is.
Well, can you type it in the chat that nobody else can see, so I can just see what you can tell me?
I'll send it to you in a private message.
Well, I'm not going to take a screen print or send it to me via Facebook now, because I actually want to know. So because I'm going to stop caring about this fairly soon. And how do you know it's this person?
I have a sneaking suspicion it's this person.
Okay, so here's my thing. Here's my thing about this is that they want. Okay, I could buy into that, but well, I mean, I was gonna say him, or I was going to say maybe, possibly. Hold on, I'll type it back to you.
Jesus.
This is good radio.
Yeah, great TV.
But yeah, this is great radio, right?
I will bet you $20 American that I'm right.
Well, but I don't know if that person has $5,000 to drop on this though.
Oh yes, they do.
They do?
They do. Yeah.
All right. Well, then I combine that. But I mean, that's a never mind. I'm gonna say too much here. But anyway, regardless. So here's the deal, and this is what I think is so stupid about this idea. And I shouldn't say stupid, but I mean, why it would never work for me. If I actually got in on this, I'm never gonna be near anything that this thing does.
Right.
You know, I live up in the middle of frickin' Minnesota, so I don't think Geek Chic is going to head up into my area of the world and is going to have, is going to like have some exclusive.
No. You're missing the point. They're going to go to where other conventions are. So when you're in town, you can go and enjoy their experience also.
And you don't, but why? I mean, it's just why would I? And here's my problem. Why would I need to go to their little lounge and play when I could just go to like the
Get away from the crowds. Like I said, I seen something like this at Origins where it was blocked off at the bar on 2 or whatever it's called, and they had their own section that was roped off for only people who paid them, and so they had a table to play with.
But that's fine. But I mean, it's just like. But did you have any trouble finding a table at Origins when you wanted to play?
A couple days in the free area there was, and it depended on the time of the day too. If Origins continues to grow, I think there will start being issues with that. During the day.
No, I think Origins is gonna be bigger.
So do I.
But it's a little amusing that they say partnered with Origins, concurrent but not yet partnered with ReedPop, whatever that is, concurrent but not yet partnered with Gen Con, concurrent but not partnered with Gen Con, like Gen Con wouldn't have them. I thought that was kind of funny. Where it talks, this is under the description for their locations, by the way. It says Indianapolis, Atlanta, Seattle, Columbus. Additional cities under consideration, they have a whole list. Ooh, Phoenix. Like I'm going to go to Phoenix and play games. I can play games with them.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, it's just like I remember. Okay, so like the first year I ever went to Con of the North, which was like my first real like convention thing after I got into the board game the thing. The first time I went was like 7 or 8 years ago. I went to Con of the North, and I had a lot of fun, and then next year, as Con of the North time came closer, I kept telling I kept telling my buddies, it's like you gotta go to Con of the North with me. This is a lot of fun, and they were like, yeah, and I was like, no, this is a lot of fun. You guys should go. And they're like, well, yeah, but there's a couple of local conventions too, and then there's this local convention called CoreCon. It's held in Fargo, North Dakota, and so I was sitting there, and I was like, yeah, we should go to CoreCon. And then the more I looked into it, the more I was like, wait a minute. So I'm gonna pay you money to be able to go to your convention in town, so I can play games with my friends who already live in town. I was like, why don't I just have you all over my house this weekend, and we can just play games at my house, and we'll just I'll deal with a little bit of a mess, and my wife will be kind of annoyed. But I mean, ultimately it'll just cost less, and it'll just make more sense. And so, like, I have this attitude of like, so I'm going to go to a convention, and there's going to be the dozen or so people like that I'm good friends with that'll be there to play games with. Why would I pay an extra $100 so we could go and make sure we found a table so we could sit down and play whatever new game we just got? I don't know. Well, yeah. I mean, and so the thing is that it seems like a really weird cash grab. And here's my problem with it. Why do they need $85,000? No, I mean, I'm serious. It's like okay, so what do you get? You get a pin. Well, actually, you get 2 pins,
I think what you're missing, Lance, is you're not the target audience.
Yeah.
This is for the people that have more money than they know what to do with, and they want to go to these things and not have to deal with the stuff that everyone complains about, like crowds and like not finding a table, and they just want to go and play games with their other rich snob type gamers, I guess, if that's what they're aiming for.
But I mean,
like,
Seth. I mean, well, okay, yeah, I guess you're right because seriously, like some of the best times I had at Gen Con were like a year or 2 years ago when the convention hall would close, and me, you, and Mike and Dan would head over to the super secret subway, and we'd play prototypes and eat a meatball sub and laugh about the things that happen.
Right. You want to go and hang out with your buddies and not be like crowded by other people or assailed by other people or not find a table because there's too many people. So these people who they're marketing to are people that can afford to drop $500 a year on this thing and not blink an eye and want that experience, and they want to go hang out with other people who are also as into it or able to afford dropping $500 on their passport. Right? It's never, no matter what you do, you're not going to understand like why they need it because you're not the target audience and you're not interested in separating yourself from the public in order to hang out with these sort of elite area. You go there to hang out with your buddies who are not in the elite area, and you go there to hang out with the public that watches you or whatever that is not in the elite area. So it's just not a thing for you. It's kind of like that Exploding Kittens Kickstarter. Everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, why is this happening? This game is terrible." It was not marketed at people from BGG who like games. It was marketed at people who were fans of the Alaboom.
Yeah.
Like, there's no use in saying, "Oh, well, I don't understand this Kickstarter." That's fine. Just don't buy it, right?
Well, and that's like a lot of things that happen is like, like going back to what we were talking about earlier as far as like the craziness that was, the Force Friday stuff. It's just like listening to people complain about the exclusive this, that, and the other thing. Well, stop buying their shit then, Let the money dry up, and then they'll realize that, But that's just it, and that's what stinks in this world is that like you sit there and you say it's really easy to stand there and say, well, vote with your wallet. Well, the unfortunate thing is that when you're in the small percentage, voting with your wallet really doesn't do a dang thing. So.
Yeah, at the airport on the way home from LA last weekend, I bought a candy bar, and they rang it up, and it was over $2. It was like $2 and change. And I was like, really? That's a lot of money. But I walked out there. I walked out of there with my candy bar, thinking, this is why it costs $2 because I'll buy, because people buy it.
Because this Nestle Crunch needs to taste so good. I'm gonna.
They have kind of in an airport they kind of have a captive audience and they can charge what they want. If nobody ever bought it, I bet you they'd brought the prices.
Well, yeah, and okay, so here, you're kind of you made me realize something that I wanted to complain about, and well, not really complain about. But here's a story.
That's what I'm good for. If I had a nickel for every time I reminded someone of something they wanted to complain about.
So I have worked in oh wait a minute, Beards and Board Games. What are you talking about? What was I exactly on? You respond to that, please, in the thing, so I can know what I actually figured out correctly. But no, I remember like
don't feed
I
the
went
ego.
through. Yeah. Well, no, I want to know what I got exactly. I'm like that. I'm like the spaghetti thing. I just throw a bunch of it against the wall, and if something sticks, great. So no, so I've worked in commercial banking in one shape or form for 15 years. And I have and I know like credit card law, and it's just like one of those things where is that like one of the things that you can't do, and I've read through like merchant services manuals. Stop, these fans of mine are awesome here, and thanks guys, I appreciate it.
No problem.
But so like one of the things is that when you tell like Visa and MasterCard and American Express and whatever, when you tell them, I'm going to accept your credit card as a form of payment, you're entering into a contract or whatever that says that you're going to, because the way credit cards work is that, okay, I bought this $50 item, Visa gives that merchant $50 minus a small percentage, that goes to both the issuing bank and also Visa, and then Visa then asks the person for the $50, and that's how it works. There's this small little interchange fee in there, and if it's a debit card, it's the same difference, but the interchange fee is a little more because of the fact that the company isn't going to get a interest charge out of the person. Anyway, regardless, so one of the things is that you can't, as a and you can look this up, you can't as a merchant refuse to accept a card for something that is like, oh, it's under $2. I'm not going to let you buy it because I'm losing.
Really? I feel like I've seen that before.
Yeah, tons of places do it. Tons of places do it, and they say, oh no, it's it's like we won't take a card for under $5. Or you can't, and or you can't say, we'll if you pay in cash, we'll lower the price, for the item. You have to charge. Yeah, it's the same thing. There's ways around it. You can do scripting. That there's ways around it. Like you can do it where you can you can apply a coupon if somebody pays in cash for gas. Like you'll see that a lot of time. If you pay in cash, we'll give you 5 cents off per gallon. That's a coupon. It's not technically us charging you a different price. We're just it's terminology. It's a way to get around it. And so I got into I went through, I was flying somewhere. You go through the whole thing. You go through the process of this. Don't even get me started. But the whole process of taking your shoes off and the whole thing, and you having to take off your belt and everything else. I just detest that. And then you get through, and then you had to ditch all your water, all your soda, everything, and at that point. And then so you get through, and then almost immediately when you walk through, there's a small little kiosk there that has candy, that has chips, that has soda and everything, because they know they can get you right there. And I walked up, and I was thirsty, and I was just like, okay, well, I'll have a 20 ounce of Coke, thank you very much. That'll be $3. And I was like, you got to be kidding me, $3? And I had $1.70 in cash on me. And so I fished out, a debit card. I was like, fine, whatever, you got me, Oh, I can't accept that for $5 or less. And I was just like, no, actually, you can. And they're like, no, my boss told me I didn't have to. I was like, I got into a 5-minute argument. And I realize now, looking back on it, what a stupid argument to have with the lady who's making $6 an hour to sit at this kiosk and sell magazines and sodas, because she isn't going to change her mind. But I don't know. It just drives me crazy. And Paul, actually, you have the right to refuse service, yes, but when you get to the point of sale, you can't actually refuse to say you're not going to sell to them if they have a legal tender that is one that you have accepted and you are willing, you can take, you have the capability of taking. So, and we're not even going to touch the county clerk, so let's just not even go there. I do not want this to turn into a political discussion, but yeah, that's one of the things that just drives me crazy, is because I because of the fact that I've worked in that area of the world as far as credit cards and everything like that, and I know more about it than most people do. So when you run into people like people, merchants and whatever, who are just, and you realize that nothing's ever going to happen. Supposedly you can report them into to Visa and whatever, and they'll investigate it, but they don't care because they're just making money off the people anyway. So why would they want to cut off a cash flow or whatever? So, but there you go. I don't know. It's just part of that big world of craziness that we live in, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I just lately, it's just, I think it's mostly just I I haven't so much been annoyed with the industry, but I don't like the route it's going right now, as far as board gaming goes. Luckily, there's been a few games that have been a lot of fun. There's still a lot of publishers out there that I think are still very interested in trying to make games that are fun instead of making games that are about trying to make money. And they're trying to make games that are fun and be a good company and make money at the same time. But I think a lot of the big ones are just churning out, oh well, this one will make us this amount of money. It's like, look at Fantasy Flight. I mean, they just keep spitting out reprints and churning out IPs, and it's just like, it's just, I don't know. What was the last original game that Fantasy Flight produced or made?
Oh. XCOM.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Okay, I should say this. What was the last game that and I realize I'm making this question to fit the answer that I want, but what was the last game that Fantasy Flight came out with that wasn't like part of a big, like a tie-in to an IP, or that wasn't a reprint? Yeah, exactly. Anthony, lay it on me. What's your guess?
Wait, does that wait? Does XCOM count as a tie-in to a license?
Well, yeah, because the XCOM,
there's a billion XCOM games coming out right now.
Well, no, but the XCOM video game won like Game of the Year awards and was just like, it was.
When was that
what?
out? Was that
well,
recent?
the year before was like it was.
I thought XCOM was like an old game. I don't know.
Well, it was, but they did a remake of it that was amazing, admittedly, and it was a fantastic computer game.
Okay.
All right. Does Android Netrunner count? Is that a reprint?
Reprint.
All right. So you have to go back to when X-Wing actually came out, and the Silverline games they made at that time that came in that same size square box. So you had Blood Bowl Team Manager, which is Blood Bowl. You had
which is a fantastic game. I love Blood Bowl Team Manager.
So you had that. You had Rune Age, which was Runebound, the card game,
which was horrible. That game was garbage.
And then you had Deadwood, which is an original game.
Yep. And Deadwood was a really weird, like, it was like they were trying to kind of make a Carson City game. It was like weird. It was yeah. I couldn't make up my mind about Deadwood at all. But yeah, you are correct. Those Silverline games were the ones, and it's just like, and out of those three, the Blood Bowl Team Manager was the one. That game was fantastic. I still play that game, and now you made me want to play it again. I haven't played it in probably a year.
Do you think we'll get back to a game longer than 45 minutes soon? I mean.
Well, there'll be the fringes. I mean, Tasty Minstrel's reprinting Coliseum. That's a good hour and a half game, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've never played it, but
you've never played it? Seriously?
I've actually not played Coliseum. We've also got Amon-Ra, I think, on the list, and it's been announced. And new stuff that's coming out. This Steamworks is a good hour and a half, 2 hours.
You're reprinting Amon-Ra?
I believe that was announced. If not, then
yes, it was announced. It was announced.
That's cool. That's a solid game.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and then Steamworks, and then we got another worker placement game coming up. I don't know, maybe next year by the time it's done, which might be over an hour probably.
Well, there you go. But I mean,
like a long time. That's all it was. It was under 45 minutes, under an hour. Fight team,
I think that's kind of like the demand is for that. People want games that are like the audience for games that are longer than that is smaller and smaller all the time, as people don't have time to be devoting. Unfortunately, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of like 3-hour games, but some of my favorite games, Brass, Railroad Tycoon, they're good 2 hours, 2.5 maybe.
Yeah, I think the thing is that span between the short game and the really long game. There's no games in that middle spot that have been coming out a lot lately.
Well, what was the last real good brain churner that really made any dent? You know, I mean, like the 4-hour game where you're just like, okay, you know, settle in.
Didn't last year Panamax and Kanban, didn't they fit that bill?
Well, I mean, Panamax, you can play it after everybody knows how to play. You can play a Panamax in about, I'm going to say about an hour and a half, 45 an hour, maybe 2 hours. And it was a brain churner. But I mean, really, the last game I remember that came out that was really, I mean, that like, I think about playing it, and like I go, oh, I want to play that. But then I realize, oh, my brain's going to hurt if I play it. Because and teaching it is Madeira. And Madeira was one of, I think is one of the best games that has come out in the last in the last 2-3 years.
Really, I haven't heard anything good about that at all. I've heard nothing but bad about that.
Are you see? Oh, Madeira is if you like.
Sorry, I've heard people say it's good, but everyone I know who's played it has not liked it.
I don't know. I mean, Madeira is
those people are wrong.
Yeah, I mean, Madeira is I don't know. I mean, how long does a game of Madeira last, Anthony?
It's a good okay. If you don't, the first time you play, it's going to take you probably close to 4 hours. Once everyone knows it, it's probably about 2.5 hour game.
Yeah.
It is. I don't know. I don't even know how to even describe it. It's just the game. The game flips over on itself so many times and changes things up, and it's not for the faint of heart. It's, you know, and it makes you pay for it. It makes you it's tough to get through. So, but yeah, I mean, every time I think about playing it, I'm like, yeah, I should really play Madeira. Then I'm just like, oh god, I don't know if I can do it.
So Seth, how many emails have they gotten in the office this past week about the Orleans expansion?
I don't know. I saw a thread on Board Game Geek about it. I have no idea how many emails they've gotten. I'm not in the office. I'm in Arizona.
Oh,
so
I thought maybe
Orleans expansion. When did this? What?
Yeah, so the company that originally did Orleans has an expansion coming out.
Yeah, Essen or something. I have no idea. I don't know anything about it. I'm sure perhaps the guys in Utah know about it, or you're saying is the expansion going to be doing it or whatever. I don't know the answer.
Okay. I knew that you didn't have the answer yet because I already knew you didn't have the answer yet, but just wondered if how many people were asking you about it.
Oh, I'm sure. I don't know if they're asking directly, but I'm sure if they haven't yet, I'm sure they will. Pardon me.
Defending Orleans together against an impending invasion.
Yeah, I read that. I was like, I don't know what that means, but sounds cool.
Apparently, it has like 3 different modules that you can add into the game.
I'm annoyed. I hate expansions that are modules. You know, just you know. I mean, I don't know. It just. I don't know.
I like modules, and I'll tell you why. Because a lot of games that come out with an expansion that has several new aspects to the game that are added, there's always at least one I don't like. So at least when it's modules, I can say, okay, we're playing with these 2, and this one will stay in the box forever because I don't like this.
Yeah, for me, it's when you get a box of modules, there's usually one good one, and the rest of them stay in the box. So you know.
Yeah, I don't know. And plus, whenever it's a it's just like with the expansions or whatever. It's just like it's one of those things where I just wish people would just make the expansion and then the whole thing just fits into the game. I will say this: I'm usually not a huge fan of expansions to games because they never are the way I want them to be, and I'm very picky when it comes to this. But what I expansions usually feel like one. Okay. This rant is gonna take a little bit, so I apologize. Usually, in my opinion, I just saw everybody growing. Usually, usually. Oh, jeez, you're not gonna listen to what I have to say. How are you gonna know what I'm saying? Anthony, you listening?
Fine.
I'm listening.
Expansions to me, like they usually more often than not, I'm so cynical, is that it's like this is the stuff that you cut from the game that you made that you now it's like the extra 7 minutes of footage on your Blu-ray. It's like these are the parts that we cut from the game because they felt kind of superfluous and they didn't really add. So you're not really adding any like big new thing. These are things that are already part of the game, but you removed to make the game more streamlined or to take away some options or whatever. And because you wanted to make the game more digestible by the people that got it. Two, it's like, oh, it's like we gave you this super cool game, and you spent time learning how to play it, and you spent time getting used to it, and whatever. Well, here's this brand new way that you're going to play the game, and it's gonna completely change what you spent the time learning and the time you invested in prior to this. And I detest that. I like being able to open up the game and just know how to play it. And my favorite expansions are the ones that, and I mean, admittedly, this doesn't work as well with a Euro because of the way they just are made. My favorite things are like games that are thematic or Ameritrash, whatever you want to call it. The expansions are just like, oh, here's a bunch of new cards, or here's a bunch of new units that you're going to be able to recruit in this game about warfare, or whatever. And it doesn't change the game so much as it just like adds new options and adds new decks and adds new things. So I like that. It just means like I've got this same game that I really like, but now you've given me all this fresh new material that I can just slide in. It doesn't change anything, but now I've got new cards to draw. I've got new experiences to have with the game that I already like. And it just seems like when you get a game that like, okay, now like remember during the third phase when you did income and then you did supply and then you did your travel. Okay, we're going to take the travel phase correctly right out of there, and what we're going to do then is we're going to have the manufacturing, and then we're going to do this, and you're going to alter that, and now here's this other board that you're going to use, and I'm just like, oh, you've lost me. Screw it. I'm not gonna play the game with it. And then I get mad because I'm like, what if the game's really awesome with that? But I just don't want to have to freaking learn how to play the game all over again. And I don't know. Maybe I'm just grouchy.
I'm in the same line as you. I really dislike expansions that try to fix the original game. They really bother me.
You'd rather play a broken game?
I'd rather not play either. But it just bothers me that they didn't catch us in development. Just pushing the shit out. But yeah, I'm the same way. I like expansions that add more of the same.
So you guys are talking about pretty sweeping generalities. Do you have any specific examples of a good example or a bad example, maybe both, of expansions you like or expansions you don't like? Like that does what you're saying. Like what's an expansion that fixed a game that they should have had that fixed in the first place, or what's an expansion that was good because it added more stuff without making you relearn the game, or what's an expansion that was like this was a bad one because it totally changed the game and I had to relearn how to play. Or are these just abstract ideas that you think?
I have two for the same game.
Yeah, go ahead. And I'll think about mine.
Like Mansions of Madness. All right, you could buy these little solo packs, or the one big box, and it's pretty much the same game, just different, campaign modules, I guess you would call it. But then they came out with that End of the Wild one or something.
Call of the Wild,
and it just changed everything. So.
Okay.
I mean, like, and this isn't so much the more recent stuff, but Sentinels in the Multiverse, when they would do like, here's a new pack, it was just a bunch of more cards with new heroes and new things and and new villains, but you still had the base game. You still had, they didn't monkey with the mechanism of how to play the game in any way, shape, or form. It was just, here's a brand new hero and here's their deck, and now you can kind of learn how to use this hero to fight, oh, this brand new villain that we just gave you and this brand new environment that it has. And so, I mean, those were always, in my opinion, good expansions, because it was able to breathe, some fresh life into the game. As far as ones that annoyed me, I mean, but then, I mean, in some cases it's not so bad. I mean, like Pillars of the Earth is like half the game if you don't have the expansion. I mean, the expansion makes the game. I mean, Pillars of the Earth with the expansion, and I realize I'm talking about a game that's out of print, you can't really get a hold of anymore, and probably won't ever be reprinted anytime soon. Is like one of the, if you're looking for just perfect light worker placement, that's like I think that's like the zenith of that design. I mean, if you're looking for something like that. So the expansion, and it wasn't so much that the expansion fixed it. It took a game that needed just a little bit more spice to make it actually, fun, and that did that perfectly.
And it did that by adding more stuff, or did you actually have to relearn that? Or is that an exception to your rule? Or is that an example of something that did a bad job because
well, it didn't really change the rules. It changed one rule. It changed the player order a little bit, and it improved it a little bit. Paul Tompkins just said something like Atlanteans for Imperial Settlers, an impossible expansion to get. I don't think Atlanteans, it just hasn't come out yet, unless those are two separate things that Paul's saying. So I mean. There are expansions. I mean, the Kingsburg, to talk to Barry, the Kingsburg expansion was a modules expansion, but it did actually. I love Kingsburg, and I think the game without the expansion is still really good. It did fix the expansion there. Did fix the what's the problem? The
die roll.
Yeah, the die roll thing. It did that. What expansion I thought was horrible? Game of Thrones board game. The Clash of Kings. Expansion had random cards that you drew. And that game is all about negotiation and discussing with other people. Are you going to back me up on this? Are you going to take care of this? Are we going to get this guy? Can I trust you not to attack me? That's all it is, and trusting the other people not to screw you over. But okay, all of a sudden you make a perfect gambit where you play like the first 4 or 5 turns of the game, and you convince somebody that you're not going to screw them over, and you then now perfectly get them to buy into it, and you attack them out of nowhere, and you have it perfectly set up, but because you draw the wrong card at random, they still win the battle, and your perfectly planned idea is just shot right down the tubes. I mean, that was a garbage expansion, and I don't know. So I mean, that'd be something that I think is just stupid to add to a game that didn't need it. And it's just, I mean, admittedly, you don't have to use it if you don't want to, but why even make that? I don't know.
All right, but Lance, what about what was your favorite game of all time? Arkham Horror.
Arkham Horror was I would buy the expansions to get the cards for the different encounter areas, and I'd throw the rest out pretty much.
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean, because that's what I wanted out of them. The perfect way to play that game, in my opinion, is Arkham and the Dunwich board, and nothing else. And just You know, I mean, Kingsport adds a bunch of crap that you don't that's no fun. You basically have to set one person up into Kingsport who just sits up there putting out fires the rest of the game. And that's basically. I mean, if you know what I'm talking about, you know.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and then Innsmouth was a good expansion, and I liked it because it made the game more difficult, and a little more murdery, I guess. I mean, your guy could get killed a lot easier up in Innsmouth when you were there, but it just I don't know. It got to the point where it just seemed like how much more money can we squeeze out of your wallet was Innsmouth to me, and then the killer was the Miskatonic, which was the expansion to the expansions. It's like, oh, go okay, so go take out all your old expansions and then start replacing the cards, you know, with these cards, and it's just these are the second edition cards, and it's just like, you know, how about if I just never take Arkham out again? And I'll just play Eldritch instead, you know, because.
But that's also adding new mechanics, though, in with each expansion.
Yeah, and I'm not a big fan of that. You need those expansions for the cards. I mean, honestly, I mean that was the one thing that sank Eldritch a little bit for my group, was that there just weren't enough cards. You would because of the fact that everybody was always in a city. I mean, you never wanted to end your turn in the wilderness. You'd end your turn on the sea just because you had to travel somewhere, and then that was how you got there. And so you draw a card and you'd experience a sea encounter. But you never, ever, ever were in the wilderness unless you absolutely had to. Everybody would end their turn in a city because you wanted to be in the city, so because if you had a leftover action, at the very least, you could try to buy something. You know, roll the dice, see if you pull it off, and then you have it, and then you can get an item. You know. And that's just so you would experience all of the city encounters in those opening decks that you got, and that was a design flaw. I mean, I loved that game, but that was a definite design flaw that they did not realize was going to happen. I mean, it's just like people when I remember one of the worst things I ever saw. I mean, I should say worst things because there's lots of things that are horrible that I've never seen. But one of the worst gaming things I ever saw, in my opinion, was I went to a convention and I watched these 4 guys playing Arkham, and they had it down math-wise exactly what they should do every single turn. I mean, they had one guy sitting at the newspaper and drawing cards, and I was like, and they were explained because the newspaper, they figured out that was the best way to make money was being at the newspaper. And then they had another guy that he would always move his slider so he was super fast, and he would sit in the newspaper until the other guy made the money, because when they took a character or whatever that would be able to do the things really well at the newspaper, he would take the money, he would then run with the money to the curio shop and hand off the money to the person that was sitting in there, who would just go through the items looking for the elder signs in the curio shop.
What's the point of playing?
And then to get the elder signs, and then the other guy was the one that was running back and forth to the gates and killing the monsters, and he would just run to the gate and use the elder sign. And so it was just, and I was watching them play this, and I was just kind of like, and they're like, oh yeah, we like to see how efficiently we can beat the game. And I was just kind of like, oh.
Because that's what it's really like when there's monsters trying to take over the world.
It was just kind of one of those things where I was like, fine, I don't know, okay, whatever. You said King of Tokyo sucks? You think King of Tokyo sucks?
It does.
Oh.
Mic drop. Boom.
Well, I'll say this. Why give you 700 cards when you're only going to see 7 of them in a game? You ever notice that? The deck of cards in King of New York for the different powers, you get through 10 to 12 cards in a game totally, ever. It's just like it's ridiculous. That was there. I know. I don't know. I will always have a soft spot in my heart for King of New York because it was like the first time I ever saw my daughter. I've told this story a million times, but I love this story, and so I apologize if you've heard it. But at a local convention, big group of people playing King of Tokyo. My 4-year-old daughter is playing King of Tokyo, and like she wanted to play, so I just stepped away and let her take my spot, and she's playing, and she's like doing really well, and like climbing, and she got to like she got to 15 points, and the person directly to her left was going to win. Like literally, like everybody was like, if we can't knock him out of Tokyo, he's going to win the game. And so like nobody can do anything. And Rylan, my daughter, they're like, if you get 5 threes, you win. You know, because she had to do it. And so like the first roll, she gets 3 threes, and like this entire crowd of people, like 6 people are like, oh, you know, and then she rolls the 2 dice again, and she gets another 3, and everybody's like, ah! And like sitting there, and she rolls the last die, and it's on a 3 for like a half a second, and then it flips over to like the energy sign, and so she loses. The guy to her left, a grown man, gets up, yes! He like screams, and the rest, and the rest of the table just looks at him like, yo, you piece of crap. You know, just like, and he didn't even, he was like trying to get people to high five him, and everybody was just staring at him, and I was devastated. I was like, oh my god, my daughter is just gonna be so upset because she realized she lost, and I was just like, I'm so sorry, honey, and she's like, it's only a game, Dad. And she just like, you know, start putting her stuff away. And I was like, huh. It's like she's 4 years old, and she handled that like 10 times better than most people would in that situation. I was just like, aw, my little girl, she's amazing. And you, sir, you are worse than Hitler. Just like,
Hitler was pretty bad.
And that man was Joel Eddy.
Yeah, Joel Eddy. So yeah, Joel. Oh man, I wish I'd said that. That would have been funny.
All right, I gotta go to bed. It's 2.
Yeah, I think this is getting late, so I think I'm gonna call it a night for everybody. But Seth, I appreciate you coming in as always late. And did your girlfriend break up with you? Is that why you're up alone by tonight, or?
No.
You need to fix those blinds. I swear to God.
I think he messes him up before he comes on, just to bother you.
Just to mess with you.
Hey, is it true you're gonna burn your house down and rebuild?
Looking into it. Maybe not the burning down part.
What's wrong with your house that you have to tear the whole thing down? Why do you gotta nuke it?
It's really, really old, and it's got everything's falling apart and stuff, and it's all crappy and.
And I don't mean to keep this going unnecessarily, but are you lucky enough to have like copper like plumbing or anything like that?
No, it's galvanized steel. It keeps breaking.
Oh,
that is.
I have yeah. I know a family like a family friend of ours. Like they bought a kind of an older house, and all of the plumbing is copper. And one of the people like saw it, and they're like, you know, you could like take all of this copper out and sell it, and like it would pay for the replacement plumbing and then some. You know, from the scrap. I mean, it might not be worth as much now, but at the time they were like, you know, just you should do that. You know, but I don't know. That was pretty crazy.
I've replaced large chunks of plumbing. You know, when it's
well, if you live in such a ramshackle house, why do people keep breaking into it and stealing stuff from you?
That's what I keep saying.
All right. Well, Anthony, I appreciate you hanging out all night long.
It was
Mary
fun.
As well. Yeah, tonight was good. Seth, like I said, thank you for jumping in. Hey, everybody, go listen to the Cardboard Jungle podcast. You got a new episode coming anytime soon, Anthony?
Next week.
Awesome.
What, you podcast? I'm sorry, I'm just kidding.
Eventually, Anthony's going to invite me back for one. It's supposedly been in the works for a while. So.
Yeah, eventually.
And Barry, you got anything coming down the pipe?
Rococo will be going up probably tomorrow.
Rococo. What do you think of the Rococo?
I enjoy it. I think it should have got more attention than it did, and I think it didn't because of the theme.
Yeah.
I think it's a decent game, though.
Do you have Rococo with C or Rococo with K?
C.
Oh, see, I have the rare Rococo with the K.
Did Eric Lang hand that to you?
No, but he signed it for me. Nice. He just signed every game I own just for fun. And then Seth, of course, go back the expansion to Kings of Earth Steam. If you don't have Kings of Earth Steam, you can get that through the Kickstarter, right?
Yep.
And then what do you get? Is there anything you got as a designer? What do you think you got coming down the pipe?
Yeah, I've been lately working on several things. You'll be happy to hear, Lance, that I remember you were saying you wished I did more bigger games.
Yeah, where's the Crusader game coming? Is that
so Crusaders is I think it's done. Another one is called Odysseus Winds of Fate, which is finally getting somewhere. That's about done now. That's been around for ages, and something was always wrong with it, and I kept fixing things left and right, but eventually now it's finally like I'm happy. So yeah, those two, and then I've been working on a third expansion to Eminent Domain.
Awesome.
Which I'm trying to decide which category it would fall into.
Is it a module?
It doesn't change the rules of the game. It adds a role. So I think you'd be okay with it.
All right.
You don't have to relearn the game. It just adds a role, and it's all very familiar. Actually, I'm pretty happy with how I've done the expansions for that one. And in no case was it things that I had cut out of the base game and added back. And each of the expansions I've done, I think, adds things in a way that you don't have to relearn the game.
Hey guys, don't log out when I go, because I actually just don't. I have a question for you that I'm going to ask off air. But okay, so there you go. So that's that then. Does anybody have anything else that they can think of that they want to say?
No.
Fair enough. All right. Yeah. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much for hanging out. And for those of you who watched it live and posted comments, I really greatly appreciate that. And for those of you who are watching it after the fact, I greatly appreciate that as well. See you all next week.
Good night.
Adios.